Chapter 837, The Winged Race. Chapter 837, The Winged Race. Your Majesty, let your subject please refer to you once more as Your Majesty. Han Zixian came to her knees in front of Luo Qingqing as she kowtowed. Becoming Yu Zhong's slave is your subject's own volition. From today on, Zixian is leader Yu Zhong's subordinate, and I can't serve Your Majesty anymore. I'm sorry. After that, she lifted her head to stare at Luo Qingqing, her beautiful eyes filled with tears. Her expression was resolute, though. Having received Your Majesty's care all these years has been Zixian's honor. Serving Your Majesty has been Zixian's fortune. Your Majesty, the winged race is our most trusted ally and friend. We cannot abandon them for the sake of myself. For the future of Storm Valley, we need their continued support. For this, I, Zixian, am not worthy of destroying this friendship between our two races. Luo Qingqing stared at the crying Han Zixian, her heart stirring and her lips trembling. Yet, she remained silent. The Storm Valley already owed Yu Zhong too much. Even if he wanted Han Zixian, no matter how dissatisfied she felt, his request was not too much. After all, operating the Storm battleship really required many nuclei. Han Zixian kowtowed thrice before standing to look at Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong, from now on, I'm your slave. You can do anything you want of me, but you must promise me to help the winged race and waive their toll. Yu Zhong stared back at her and smiled. Sure, that's definitely not a problem. However, I want your loyalty. That's the trait I value about you, your righteousness and loyalty. As long as you are loyal, I can waive the toll. She wiped off the tears and replied, as long as you honor the agreement, I will swear my loyalty. Yu Zhong chuckled. Deal. After ascertaining the next step, both sides discussed a few more issues before calling for an end to the meeting. Excuse me, you must be the younger sister of Phineas of the original Storm 8 Great, Fenina. As everyone was about to leave, Yu Zhong called out to a young lady of about 15 to 16, her golden hair tied up in a long ponytail, her figure explosive. Fenina stared at Yu Zhong coldly. That's right. I am Fenina. Sir Yu Zhong, what's the matter? Since he had used such a method to obtain Han Zixian, she was filled with disgust towards him. I know you possess the ability to make equipment out of mutant beast materials. Her eyes flashed with hate. It must be that bitch Lu Mayer who told you. Lu Mayer's betrayal was made known to everyone in the Storm Valley, causing everyone to hate her. I hope that you can help me craft some equipment. She coldly refused. I reject. Yu Zhong laughed lightly, and with a flip of his hands, a huge Type 5 mutant beast scale appeared in them. Fenina took one look at the scale and sucked in a deep breath, grabbing the scale over to take a good look, her eyes burning with a passion as she exclaimed, "This is a Type 5 mutant beast scale." Fenina was the equipment craftsman of the Storm Valley. After her sister Phinea's death, she had accepted the title of Storm 8 Greats and became the first equipment craftsman. She had produced decent equipment from Type 4 mutant beast parts before. However, she had yet to work with a Type 5 material. To her, it was a dream that she could not reach, and to be able to use it was a dream come true. Yu Zhong chuckled. That's right. I hope that you can create 50 sets of armor out of these Type 5 scales. As compensation, I can pay you 10 Type 3 mutant beast nuclei. Fenina continued to hold the Type 5 scale tightly, almost shouting, No, I can create 50 sets for you. But you must give me another huge scale. You have killed a Type 5 mutant beast after all. There are so many of them. It's just a small piece to you. There's no loss giving one to me. Yu Zhong's eyes twinkled as he laughed. No way. Fenina, you also know the preciousness of the Type 5 mutant beast hide. It is definitely a valuable life-protecting treasure. Such a piece can easily create 3 sets of armor. If you want one, then it's definitely not enough to help me create 50. The higher the grade of the mutant beast hide, the more precious and the stronger the life-saving qualities. Yu Zhong's Type 4 mutant beast hide had saved him countless times. Fenina grabbed the scale tightly and positively screamed, I know. I will help you create more until you're satisfied. Is that fine now? Yuzhong chuckled. Fine deal. Yuzhong took out the Type 5 mutant B scale in a bid to attract Fanina, luring her to work for him. He had a huge stash of Type 5 mutant beast parts, yet there was not a single person who could work on them under him. Bye. Fanina hugged the Type 5 mutant beast scale and dashed off, intending to make use of the scale to manufacture a few decent pieces of armor. Gray Mountain was a steep area near the cracked Tooth Gorge, its side as smooth as a blade. There was no foothold, and ordinary people would never be able to scale this mountain. At the center of the mountain, there was a large cave, guarded and patrolled by numerous winged people wielding spears and bows on their backs. From time to time, other winged people would fly into the cave with hunted prey. Is this where the winged race lives? Interesting. Yuzhong was at the foot of the mountain, looking at the huge cave with winged people flying in and out, a look of excitement and curiosity flashing across his eyes. It was the first time he had witnessed such a way of life. Luo Qingqing eyed Yuzhong and frowned. Yuzhong, remember the points I told you to take note. Do not antagonize them. This time, Luo Qingqing wanted to visit the winged race and persuade them to leave together with her. Yuzhong was interested, hence he tagged along. Yuzhong laughed. I know. Yuzhong's party had just arrived at Gray Mountain when a number of winged people flew down and surrounded them. The leader was a burly man with dark skin, dressed in wolf hide. His features were handsome, and he barked, "Who are you people?" Luo Qingqing was filled with confidence, and she stood forward and replied coolly, "I'm Storm Valley's Luo Qingqing. This is my ally, Yuzhong. Today, we're here to pay Queen Shailene a visit." Hearing Luo Qingqing's name, the face of the wolf pelt man turned warmer. "So, it was the Storm Queen. Please wait a moment. We will make a report." A winged person swiftly flew up towards the cave. Yuzhong took the opportunity to observe the 16 other winged people. Among them, there were 10 women and 6 men. The men had decent looks and ripped bodies. The women were beautiful and voluptuous. Behind them, they all had the distinct feature of gray wings. It was obvious that this particular race was extremely blessed in the looks department. In fact, they looked similar to the mythical angels, although angels were depicted as having white wings, while these people had gray ones. Soon, 26 more winged people flew out from the cave, landing with a huge box. The handsome leader gestured, "Please." Yuzhong, Luo Qingqing, as well as Han Zixian and Hai Shi from the Storm 8 Greats went into the box. With a flap of their wings, the 26 winged people hoisted the box up and soared towards the cave. The entrance was about 100 meters wide. Right near it, there were numerous huge crossbows. Yuzhong guessed that the huge mutant beast bone arrows that laid on those machines were at least 20 m long, and the tips smeared with poison. With such a threat, even if aerial Type 4 mutant beasts wanted to attack, they would face a certain degree of risk. As for Type 5 mutant beasts, while they might be catastrophic existences and did not fear the arrows, they were too large to enter the cave. At the same time, Yuzhong noticed hundreds of winged people patrolling with their spears and bows. This is also a matriarchal society. Yuzhong observed carefully and discovered that there were at least 70% females among the warriors and the rest were males. The winged race also had women in power. The only difference is that in the process of reproduction, the chances of males were lesser than females, thus the higher ratio of females. Chapter 838, Winged Queen Shailene. Chapter 838, Winged Queen Shailene. There was a higher ratio of female offspring, and many were outstanding experts, thus suppressing the males to be a matriarchal society. It was precisely because of that they formed an alliance with the Storm Valley, both sides working together to resist the Stegosaurus kingdom. After passing through the cave entrance, they continued forward, and Yuzhong saw many interesting and strange weapons along the way. At the same time, he discovered dark traces of blood on the weapons and even the walls on either side. It was apparent that there had been an intense battle in the past. After passing through the cave, The light did not diminish. Instead, there was a radiance emitting from the walls of the inner parts of the mountain, illuminating the entire place brightly. Yu Zhong stared in wonder. This is amazing. How did they do it? Luo Qingqing spoke. The glowing moss is a treasure of the winged race. Borrowing the light from these miraculous things, all winged race areas are always bathed in light. Yu Zhong took the beautiful sight in while muttering to himself, glowing moss. To him, the glowing moss was a valuable treasure. Humans suffered limitations in sight during the night and were vulnerable to other races and species. On Earth, Yu Zhong had often taken the advantage of his class specialty to defeat his enemies in the night. However, he was also worried about his enemies doing the same to his army. If he could utilize the moss properly, then his troops would be able to exhibit a terrifying might during night combat. After passing heavy security and going through another tunnel, they finally arrived at a huge city. There seemed to be no end to the sides, with countless honeycomb structures. Many winged people were flying in and out of these buildings. On the streets, a number of children were playing games or undergoing training under the guidance of their parents. At the central region, there was a single honeycomb that reached the top of the cavern city, entirely in white, and it gave off a majestic feel. Yu Zhong and the rest of the party were brought up towards this building. Yu Zhong's eyesight was sharp, and he noticed from observing that these winged people were backward in terms of technology and knowledge. Most of them covered only in beast pelt. Some of them only had a small layer around their lower private areas, and the women would even let their chests be exposed. Yet no one seemed particularly surprised or embarrassed. There were also a few that were stark naked as they went about their activities. Furthermore, their outlook on life was evidently different from humans. Yu Zhong just had to take a casual look and noticed that there were many couples engaged in copulation in public. Some groups of females would even surround a male for a good time without any reservations. The huge box soon came to a rest at the peak of the white honeycomb structure. Yu Zhong's party took a single step out, and they were immediately greeted by an extremely beautiful woman with long gold locks, dressed in white satin. She was flanked by 4 other winged female warriors wearing storm armor. The golden-haired lady broke into a smile as she looked at Luo Qingqing. Queen Luo Qingqing, you've come. Her Majesty has instructed for me to receive you. Please come with me. Luo Qingqing stared in confusion before she suddenly recognized her. Winnie, have you broken through already? Queen Luo Qingqing, you're truly capable. Indeed, I've broken through a month ago and am a Type 4 Divine Warrior now, Winnie responded with a slightly proud tone. A Type 4 Divine Warrior was an existence not to be underestimated. Even among the winged race, they were rare and few. Winnie shot Yu Zhong a look and could not help but stick out her tongue to lick her lips sensually. Is this your king? He seems pretty strong. Since the winged race had more females than males and were a matriarchal society, the women would usually make advances on the men. Although Yu Zhong was not exceptionally good-looking, however, through the countless battles, he had grown to possess a unique aura that was attractive. Seeing Winnie's undisguised greed, Luo Qingqing was slightly uncomfortable, frowning as she replied, Winnie, this is Yu Zhong, an important ally and friend, and not my king. Take me to see Queen Shailene. Yes, please follow me. She withdrew her gaze from Yu Zhong's body reluctantly, before leading the party deeper into the palace. Under her lead, they quickly came to a vast hall. Luo Qingqing, the last time I saw you was about 3 years ago. Why didn't you come over more often? The party had just entered the place when another absolute beauty appeared, her jade-like skin glowing, her hair golden, and she was wearing a storm battle armor. If it wasn't for her wings being gray instead of white, she would look like the epitome of angels. She immediately hugged Luo Qingqing and chuckled amicably. Behind her, there were 8 other female warriors with the storm battle armor, 2 other beauties in white silk, and 2 young male warriors with good looks and muscular bodies. Seeing how close the woman was with Luo Qingqing, the faces of the 2 women in silk sunk. As for the 2 men, Their eyes brightened upon seeing Luo Qingqing. In terms of appearance and aura, Luo Qingqing surpassed the top beauties of the winged race ever so slightly. Luo Qingqing had an apologetic smile as she explained, "My apologies, Shailene. There have been too many problems over at Storm Valley. The Sun Alliance and Pterosaur Mountain have been eyeing us for some time. I couldn't pull out the time to come over for leisure." "Forget it. I know it's hard for you. I forgive you." Shailene chuckled in joy, extracting herself from the hug. One of the mature ladies in white silk had blue hair, her face sullen as she spoke solemnly. "Your Majesty, you are now representing our winged race. Please mind yourself." Shailene smiled bitterly, before turning around to return to her throne, before assuming a wooden expression and Aiduzhong's group silently. After waiting for Luo Qingqing and the rest to be seated, the blue-haired lady then spoke with a severe expression, "Storm Queen, what brings you here to our winged race palace?" Luo Qingqing returned the expression, "Elder Dorothy, this time I've come hoping for the winged race to come with us to leave Green Region. The Stegosaurus Kingdom had already set their sights on our Green Region, and with our strength, there's no way of defending against their advances. If we make our way to Cloud Region, we have a chance." The two older women beside Shailene were called Dorothy and Doreen. They were the two elders of the winged race. Both of them had the strength of a peak Type 4 Divine Warrior. They were just a few steps away from the Type 5 realm. They had considerable authority within the winged race. Even the Queen Shailene had to listen to them. After hearing Luo Qingqing's words, the faces of all the winged people present changed. One of the males suddenly laughed coldly. "Leave Green Region? Impossible. Our winged race had toiled for countless years. Now that we finally have our own sacred grounds in this mountain, yet you want to waltz in here and ask us to leave with you with a single sentence? Our winged race is not at your beck and call, Luo Qingqing." The other male continued in a sharp tone, "Yade is right. The biggest mistake of our winged race was to ally with your Storm Valley. You useless human trash. You couldn't even defend Cracked Tooth Gorge without the help of our winged race. Yet, what have you done? You actually blew up the gorge, allowing the Stegosaurus Kingdom to invade Green Region. Damn it. Because of you, our winged race has now become their target as well. We've lost 400 of our brothers and sisters. You dare come in here, hoping for our winged race to follow you out of Green Region? What do you see us as? Your subordinates or your toys?" When Luo Qingqing heard their words, her expression turned ugly and she clenched her fists, looking towards Dorothy and Doreen. Instead, the two of them stared back at Luo Qingqing quietly, not saying anything, causing Luo Qingqing's heart to turn cold. With their position, without their consent or expressed intention, the two male winged warriors would definitely not have shot their mouths like that. Evidently, there were many among the winged race that was already dissatisfied with the alliance with the Storm Valley. Luo Qingqing stood up with an impassive face. "Since this is the case, I have nothing better to say. Our Storm Valley will leave the Green Region by ourselves. Farewell." Dorothy suddenly spoke up. "Wait. Storm Queen, although we can't leave, we are still good friends. We hope that you can stay and allow us to host you well." Shailene also looked at her with an apologetic look. "Storm Queen, stay on. Let's host you." Luo Qingqing had intended to leave immediately. However, upon seeing Shailene's look, her heart could not help but soften. They had shared many years of friendship, while the rejection of Luo Qingqing's proposal was a collective decision, while Shailene was merely a figurehead. The power she held could not compare with the two elders. Luo Qingqing did not want to make things difficult for her as well. Chapter 839, Courtship Offering. Chapter 839, Courtship Offering. Inside a secret room, Dorothy, Doreen, and the two handsome wingmen were seated, the atmosphere heavy and tense. Doreen was frowning, a look of hesitation on her face. "Are we really doing this? The Storm Valley is our ally after all." One of the males had a resolute look. "Elder Doreen, we have to do this. We know clearly the might of the Stegosaurus. Any mid-grade Dino-General is not an existence we can handle. Now that the cracked Tooth Gorge is destroyed, we don't have any defenses left. We can only plead with their kingdom for survival. The other male also spoke up with an insufferable amount of arrogance. Wayne is right. If we go against the Stegosaurus kingdom, we're just courting death. Although the green region is submerged with water now, they would never let off anyone involved with their losses. Especially since the Storm Valley is one of 3 main factions, they will be their target for vengeance. If we send them the Storm Queen Luo Qing, they will be appeased and let us off. Wayne spoke softly, although it would mean that we will become under the banner of the Stegosaurus kingdom and lose our independence. It will avert the wipeout of our clan. Esteemed elders, this is our only choice. If we hesitate any further, once the experts of the Stegosaurus kingdom arrive, our entire winged race will be their targets as well. The winged race knew the might of the Stegosaurus kingdom. They were just a small species of this world, and the last winged queen had merely been at the initial Type 5 Divine Warrior stage, the only one of the entire winged race. However, even this winged queen had perished at the hands of a mid-grade Dino-General in a battle some time ago, highlighting the difference in strength between them and the Dino people. The current queen, Shailene, had only ruled for 3 years. Although she had the exalted blood of the previous queen, her age was still young, and her power was still at the initial Type 4 Divine Warrior realm. Among the winged race, she barely had any authority. With the pressure of the Stegosaurus kingdom weighing on them, the 2 elders were starting to feel nervous. Their might could not compare to the Stegosaurus kingdom. If they did not navigate properly, they would easily be wiped out. In this third world, the Dino people were the overlords of this world. They had the strongest advantage and were also the most savage people. There were many species that had been wiped out by them, and they were widely feared. Doreen looked towards Dorothy. What do you think, Dorothy? Dorothy was silent for a long while, her eyes flashing with a complicated gaze before she heaved a long sigh. For the sake of our winged race, we can only sacrifice the Storm Queen. Doreen asked after a while, "Are we going to tell Her Majesty?" Dorothy shook her head with a cold look. Her Majesty values her relationships. If she knows we're plotting against her friend, she would not agree. However, she is not stupid. When we go under the banner of the Stegosaurus kingdom, she will understand our difficulties. Wayne, Lars, go make your preparations. Understood. The 2 handsome winged men responded and left. At night, within the honeycomb city, the glowing moss near the top of the enormous cavern was starting to dim. However, there were a few other plants that were radiating light as well, illuminating the city. A huge field. There was a bonfire with numerous good-looking winged people dancing around with festive clothes. Silk existed in this world as well. However, only humans were able to produce beautiful silk by rearing some mutant bugs. The amount produced was not a lot, and even in the winged race, only a few ladies of higher caste could afford them. These were obtained through exchange with the Storm Valley in the past. There was also a circle of tables where the guests of the winged race would be seated. Yu Zhong was currently seated at one of the table, drinking juice while enjoying the food provided by the winged race. This time, the feast was of an important level. The juice was produced from various mutant plants and fruits that could boost the physique of humans. The culinary habits of the winged race were not particularly high. They only knew how to barbecue the meat roughly. However, the ingredients were collected from delicious Type 3 mutant beast meat. Furthermore, they were using spices and other seasonings that Yu Zhong had never seen or tasted before, causing the meat to taste even better. On a podium, Shailene and Luo Qing sat together, as the most important people of the Honeycomb City. Shailene looked at Yu Zhong curiously. "Sis, is that Yu Zhong your consort king? Based on your Storm Valley rules, you should have already reached the age to choose your king, right? In fact, I've counted. Today should be the day you choose a king. You actually brought him here. He should either be your king or a beloved concubine. Yeah? He doesn't look particularly handsome, though. Why him?" Shailene and Luo Qing were the best of friends, and since Luo Qing was older than Shailene, hence, when no one was around, Shailene would call Luo Qing sis. At the same time, since their factions were allies, Shailene knew the ritual of choosing a king. Luo Qing shot Yu Zhong a look, her own gaze filled with complicated emotions as she shook her head. He's not my king, nor concubine. He's an ally. This time, thanks to him, our Storm Valley managed to survive. Shailene asked with curiosity, "Oh, what's going on? Mind telling me?" Just as Luo Qing was about to say something, a bout of strong drum beats began to resound as all the beautiful female dancers left the stage. 40 muscular men wielding spears and bows entered the scene. All of them had rippling muscles, their bodies taut. In combination with their good looks, they had attracted the excited screams and cheers of many women. Shailene looked at the good-looking winged men entering the parade square and became excited. "It's starting. Sis, our winged race's courtship offering. Look, these are all our strongest and handsome warriors. They are all much more good-looking than Yu Zhong. Wayne, Lars, do your best." Of the 40 males, Wayne and Lars were pretty outstanding in their demeanor. Luo Qing glanced at the excited Shailene and chuckled mildly. The courtship offering was a sacred ritual of the winged race. In this ritual, the most outstanding males of the winged race would step forward to perform in front of the queen, competing in battles to narrow down to the 10 most excellent warriors. Of these 10 outstanding males, they had the chance to choose any females above the age of 25 of their liking, other than the queen and elders, to be their partners for one night. At the same time, their performance would rile up the attention and adoration of countless women. On top of that, in the past, there was usually a chance to become the king or concubine of the winged queen. Therefore, many males would strive to take part and do their best. Of the courtship offering, there were 3 components to the competition, namely close combat, archery, and spear combat. The winged race had a different sense of close combat compared to humans. Due to their wings, they could fly in the sky and engaged in a melee. It was a test of their control as well as combat. In the skies, 2 gray figures clashed when all of a sudden they merged together and crashed towards the ground. Punk! With a loud explosion, and after the dust dispersed, Wayne was standing on top of another winged warrior. The winged warrior spoke with difficulty. "I admit defeat. Wayne, 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 I love you." Wayne took his leg away from the other winged warrior, raising his hands up high amidst an explosion of cheers. He had revealed a suppressing strength, successfully defeating the other contestants. Even Lars had chosen to admit defeat. He was not his match. As the sounds continued to ring out, Wayne walked over to Yu Zhong, his eyes filled with disdain as he challenged. "Yu Zhong, I heard that among the humans, you men are all weak trash with no balls, hiding behind women. Do you dare compete against me?" Wayne's voice was not soft, and a number of condescending, curious, and even excited gazes fell upon Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong shot Wayne a look, entering the stage. "You have successfully pissed me off, useless trash. I accept your challenge." Shailene squealed in delight. He's challenging Wayne. This time he's in trouble. Chapter 840, One Move Victory. Chapter 840, One Move Victory. "Wayne, do your best. Finish him. Stuff his head into his arse." Seeing Yu Zhong enter the stage, the spectators erupted in excited cheers and hollers. None of them thought that Yu Zhong could succeed, as he was a human. Hence, they all shouted their support for the hero of their hearts, Wayne. Wayne's eyes flashed with a savage glint. "I had originally intended to teach you a lesson. Now, you have infuriated me. Yu Zhong, I will take your right arm and force it so far up your arse. In close-quarter combat, both parties have to be responsible for their own life and death. If you're afraid, get down on your knees and lick my shoes. I will let you off and spare your life." Wayne was the top male warrior of the winged race, having never suffered any setback during his growth. With the exception of the queen and some other upper-class women, as long as he hooked his finger, any other female would gladly go to bed with him. He would also enjoy their adoration and respect. He looked down on the weaker humans, and thus, since he was challenged by an ant he despised, he was filled with rage. Yu Zhong eyed him and laughed coldly. You spout too much bullshit. Get started, fool. Shailene called out excitedly on the podium. Wayne, go all out. Teach this arrogant fellow a lesson. Since she had been queen for too short a time, and she was still young, there was still a little childish temperament to her. Because of that, although she had the strength of a type 4 divine warrior, her authority had not yet exceeded the two elders. When Luo Qing saw this, a strange glint flashed across her eyes as the corners of her mouth lifted in a strange smile. Wayne got down on a single knee and declared to Shailene, Understood. Glorious Queen, I will fulfill your wish. Now, you can regret your foolishness and arrogance. Wayne stood up, turned around, his eyes flashing fiercely. With a tap of his foot, 6 clones suddenly shot toward Yuzhong. 6 shadow clones. He can already conjure up 6 of them. Seems like his strength had reached the peak of Type 3, nearing the Type 4 realm. Outstanding. He's only 25 this year, and yet his strength has reached such a stage. Seems like we might soon have a powerful Type 4 king. Upon seeing the 6 shadow clones, many winged people had expressions of shock as they began to discuss excitedly. To the winged race, Type 4 experts were considered the pinnacle. There were only 5 of them in the entire race. Thus, having one more Type 4 divine warrior meant that they would have an additional powerhouse. Many of the pretty young ladies stared wide-eyed at Wayne, their eyes filled with adoration. With such a handsome and powerful man, it was impossible to not be attracted. The 6 shadow clones pounced towards Yuzhong. As long as he made the wrong judgment, Wayne would be able to grab hold of him and toss him to the ground. Even among most human Type 4 divine warriors, it would be hard to block against such a move. Each of the clones was fixed on one of Yuzhong's vital areas, namely his waist, heart, throat, brain, and other spots. The spectators were filled with glee, excitement, and even bloodlust, hoping to see Yuzhong heavily injured, if not dead. Yuzhong stared at them coldly, before sending out a casual slap towards one of the clones. At the moment, all 6 clones disintegrated, while Wayne was sent soaring towards a wall in a flash, looking like a broken doll. The handsome mug of his was contorted due to Yuzhong's strike, his teeth all knocked out, as blood gushed out in large amounts. Seeing this, everyone was caught slack-jawed. They had never expected that their top male warrior to be defeated in a single move by this human without being able to defend himself. Only Luo Qing and the rest from Storm Valley who knew his strength did not falter. They had long since anticipated such an outcome. Yuzhong looked at Wayne, who was stuck in the wall, laughing coldly as he shot towards him. Still not dead? Your constitution is pretty decent. Immediately, a dozen winged warriors came gathering in front of Wayne, protecting him as they raised their spears at Yuzhong. One of them barked out, Yuzhong, what do you think you're doing? Yuzhong declared in a loud and self-justified manner. Of course it is to end his life. It is a combat between the two of us. In this battle, as long as he doesn't admit defeat, he still intends to battle. I'm going to end this. There's not a single rule I've broken. Instead, you guys are trying to flout the rules, eh? So the winged race is such a lawless place, is it? You still don't want to back off? Rebuked by Yuzhong, the rest of warriors had ugly expressions. In the courtship offering ritual, it was true that there would be casualties during the competition. As long as one party did not acknowledge defeat, the spectators could not intervene no matter what. However, Wayne had been slapped silly by Yuzhong, his mind apparently out of focus. He was not in the right state to admit defeat. If Yuzhong were to go over now, Wayne would surely die. Right at this moment, Shailene's voice rang out. All of you, stand down. Our winged race is not a clan that is not trustworthy. We do not flout our traditions and rules. Yes, your majesty. Hearing Shailene's words, the warriors bowed and quickly stepped aside. Shailene was currently emitting the bearing of a ruler, well beyond her years, as she looked at Yuzhong. Yuzhong, our winged race will stick to our words. As long as Wayne does not admit defeat, you do have the right to kill him. However, I hope that you can let him off. I do not wish for our winged race and the humans to become enemies. Shailene might be naive and childish at times. However, she was after all raised to be the future queen. At this current moment, she truly did have the bearing of royalty. Yuzhong stopped and shot Shailene a look of appreciation. Fine, then who is the winner here? Shailene's mouth curled as she gazed back at him with a hint of a smile. Of course, it's you. Yuzhong then stood at the center of the stage and shot the male warriors condescending looks. Good. I won this round. Who else dares to take me on? The male warriors all looked at him, their eyes flashing with fear. No one had the confidence to take on this human who had defeated their strongest with a single hit. Among the female warriors, many had looks of fury as they glared at Yuzhong. At the same time, a few beautiful ones were looking at Yuzhong with appreciation. In this world where strength meant everything, as long as one was strong enough, there would be no lack of suitors. Who dares to challenge me? Yuzhong continued to taunt the men as he looked down with disdain. Many of the male warriors lowered their heads to avoid eye contact. If they were to go up and got slapped like Wayne, then after today, they would become a joke. Yuzhong smiled coldly and taunted once more. Are there no brave warriors among the winged race? I'll challenge you. Under his constant challenges, a beautiful girl with an oval-shaped face, her long golden hair tied in a ponytail, and her figure explosively sexy, came up to the stage. She stared straight at Yuzhong, her voice ringing with anger. I, Lai Wei, am here to challenge you. Our winged race has no lack of warriors. Yuzhong laughed lightly. If I recall correctly, in the courtship offering ritual, females are forbidden to take part. Am I right? In the winged race, the females had a higher strength than the men. Therefore, they were forbidden from taking part. Otherwise, there would not be a single man worthy to present themselves. Just like on Earth, if there wasn't a clear separation, then top female athletes could not compete against the top male athletes. Lai Wei shot Yuzhong a challenging look. What, you're scared? Coward. Coward. You don't even have the courage to accept another challenge. Yuzhong, you're the coward. Lai Wei, teach this man a lesson. Although he fits my taste, he's too arrogant. Among the spectators, many of the female warriors were screaming excitedly, with some even blowing wolf whistles. Yuzhong flipped his hands, and a Type 4 nucleus appeared in his hand. Of course not. I accept your challenge. However, let's make it more interesting. If I do not defeat you in the allotted time, I'll lose this nucleus to you. If I do defeat you, you will be my subordinate. Even when I leave this honeycomb, you must come with me and fight alongside me. How about that? Yuzhong had observed this Lai Wei carefully and noticed that she had a valiant and sturdy aura, obviously the result of countless battles. He needed such talented warriors. Lai Wei licked her lips in excitement. No, I want to change the conditions. If I lose, I'm yours. If you lose, you're mine. You'll have to stay here with me. Yuzhong chuckled and nodded. Fine. Chapter 841, Genius Lai Wei. Chapter 841, Genius Lai Wei. Hee. This time, you'll definitely lose. Lai Wei saw how easily Yuzhong agreed to her conditions and revealed a crafty smile. She then walked to one side, looking toward the mature winged woman. Mama, lend me your storm battle armor. The beautiful woman laughed lightly and tossed the suit together with a Type 4 nucleus before smiling coyly. Lai Wei, I like this Yuzhong too. Once he becomes yours, let him accompany me for 3 nights. Lai Wei stared back after taking the armor. No way. He's someone that caught my eye. If you want to play with men, go choose some others. He's mine. Without any hesitation, Lai Wei swiftly put on the armor, standing on the stage, staring at Yuzhong with a gaze full of battle intent. Shall we start? Yuzhong laughed lightly. Bring it on. The moment his words landed, Lai Wei's eyes flashed with a glint. The nucleus behind the armor radiated brightly, and with a tap of her foot, 16 shadow clones dashed towards him. Type 4 peak. What a fast speed. She's already a Type 4 divine warrior. Yuzhong caught sight of the 16 shadow clones and was full of shock. His heart turned cold, and he became serious, withdrawing his contempt. Lai Wei was a genius combateer among the winged race. Although her age was young, she had been through countless battles and had reached the initial Type 4 Divine Warrior stage. With the enhancement of the Storm Battle Armor, she was even able to push herself to the peak of Type 4. Her speed was extremely quick, every single shadow clone looking extremely lifelike. It surpassed what Wayne was capable of. Yu Zhong had been able to discern the authenticity behind Wayne's technique, but was unable to do so for Lai Wei's. His pupils narrowed, and with a tap, he shot backward like an arrow, activating his gravity manipulation as a powerful gravitational force spread outward. He had just stepped back when he suddenly felt an intense sense of danger from above. A powerful hurricane came crashing down towards his head. From above, without lifting his head, he twisted his body slightly and channeled his dark Do Chi. With that tight space he had, he sent out a powerful fist towards the direction of the danger. Both fists connected, and Yu Zhong, who was less prepared, was sent flying backward. He twisted his body, his pupils constricting, looking up only to discover all 16 shadow clones flapping their wings and coming after him. The Type 2 gravitational force was only enough to impede Lai Wei for barely a second. Due to the sudden change in gravity, they were caught unaware, but once they got used to it, it did not affect them much. Yu Zhong eyed them, and his gaze turned frosty before he suddenly charged towards them with a fierce, killing intent. Lai Wei's eyes flashed with shock, but threw a punch without holding back. This is the real one. Upon getting close to them, Yu Zhong finally determined one of them to be the true body. There was a wildfire behind his eyes as he allowed the punch to reach his chest. Her peak Type 4 strength burst out, almost bursting his chest open. With the new armor he was wearing made from the Type 5 Mutant B scale, together with his body of steel, it negated about 60% of Lai Wei's force. However, the remaining was enough to send his insides tumbling. He almost threw up blood, but he managed to suppress it. Hee, I caught you. At the moment her punch landed on Yu Zhong, he opened his arms wide and grabbed her tight, as he sent a vicious knee strike towards her abdomen. She received the blow, and her eyes flashed with madness, kicking out the same way towards him. He took a step closer and used his legs to block, causing her knee to slam into his thigh, from which a sharp pain shot through his body. He hugged her tight and tumbled towards the ground, using his body to stick close and assault her. Not willing to stand down, Lai Wei utilized the same fighting style and threw close punches. Both parties were reduced to brawling together like hoodlums. This is close-quarter combat, and not just skills or abilities. At the first instance of their clash, Yu Zhong had already determined that he was not a match for her without using some means. Yu Zhong had been through countless combat and crawled through seas of zombie corpses and blood, his experience abundant. Lai Wei was not that far off as well, having fought her fair share of battles. She was also more talented in combat compared to Yu Zhong. Combined with the natural wings that their winged race possessed, it allowed their speed to be faster and the flight ability. Utilizing the many means, they could gain an upper hand in close combat. When the spectators watched this, they were stunned silly. Who would have thought that two experts would actually be reduced to brawling like this? Yu Zhong and Lai Wei's attacks were reaching an intense level, as Lai Wei twisted constantly in a bid to escape Yu Zhong's grip. As for Yu Zhong, he held her tightly, not allowing her to escape. Both parties continued to rain blows, and Lai Wei was starting to throw up blood. As for Yu Zhong, who possessed the regeneration and body of steel abilities, he was like a bull that hung on. Although there was blood at the corners of his mouth as well, he was still brimming with vitality, with no trace of exhaustion. Damn it, get the hell away. As the battle reached a climax, Lai Wei's eyes flashed fiercely as the Type 4 nucleus on her back glowed. Her strength was pushed to the Type 5 realm, and she was starting to lose her rationality from her anger, intending to defeat Yu Zhong quickly. No, Lai Wei, don't do it. You can't use that power. Seeing the bright glow of the storm battle armor, Many of the upper-class winged race had huge changes in expression, frantically calling out to stop her. Lai Wei was currently utilizing the strongest that the armor had to offer. She would likely lose control and go on a killing spree. At the same time, after the burst of strength, the Type 4 nucleus would also crumble into dust. Sorry, this strength does not belong to you. Yu Zhong spoke coldly, with blood near his lips, before suddenly letting go. Lai Wei's eyes flashed wildly, and she shot up like an arrow, slashing toward his chest with her nails. At that instant, her claws slammed into his body. Yu Zhong disintegrated, turning into dust and disappearing. Her eyes widened in shock when suddenly, a palm came knocking at the back of her head, making her unconscious. Although she had gained a boost in strength from the armor, she had lost her rationale, and to Yu Zhong, her current state was easier to deal with. After knocking her out, Yu Zhong turned to Shailene and chuckled. "Beautiful queen, this round is also my victory, no?" Shailene looked straight back at him with a coy smile. "That's right. It's your win. Yu Zhong, I appreciate and admire you very much. Stay with us. I will make you my king." "Your Majesty, do reconsider, Your Majesty." Hearing Shailene's words, all the winged race immediately had expressions of horror as they tried to persuade her otherwise. All along, the king's position usually belonged to the winged race, never a foreign race or species. To the winged race who valued their blood and tradition, they would never allow a human to become their king. With Shailene's words, many of the male winged warriors had ugly expressions. They were the best among the best, and based on tradition, the king would have been chosen from among them. Yet now, there was a human who was going to take that position. They could not help but feel ashamed. "Shailene, don't mess around." At this time, Dorothy, Doreen, and 20 other elites with storm armor, as well as 100 winged female warriors clad in beast hide, came marching out. Shailene looked at them and frowned. "Elders, what's the meaning of this?" Dorothy's eyes flashed as she barked. "Your Majesty, we need to talk to the Storm Queen for the sake of our future. Please be silent." Being admonished by Dorothy, the atmosphere turned frosty as Shailene gritted her teeth, her hands clenched tightly. Doreen smiled at Luo Qingqing. "Storm Queen, please come with us." Luo Qingqing's facial expression suddenly changed as the fruit juice in her hands landed on the ground. She stared up in shock. "You guys actually poisoned the food?" Haishi's face also turned as she rushed up in front of Luo Qingqing to protect her. Luo Qingqing turned to Shailene with a hurt look. "Shailene, you actually poisoned me as well." Shailene stared back in horror. "No. Sis, I did not do anything of the sort." She then turned to Dorothy and screamed, "Dorothy, Doreen, what's going on?" Dorothy eyed Shailene and barked, "Your Majesty, keep quiet. This has to do with the survival of our winged race. It is the decision that we elders have made for our sake." Chapter 842, Type 4 Prehistoric Monitor Lizard. Chapter 842, Type 4 Prehistoric Monitor Lizard. Shailene's face turned bad, her eyes filled with a chilly gaze. A unanimous decision by the Elder Council? How come I wasn't made aware of this? Under the gaze, the rest of the upper echelon all averted their eyes. Shailene was after all the queen of the winged race. Keeping this matter from her was truly an offense. Dorothy frowned as she chided Shailene with a tone as though rebuking a child. "Because you're always so headstrong. The Elder Council was afraid that you might be too agitated. That's why we kept it from you. Seems like our decision was right. Shailene, you're still too young." In the eyes of Dorothy, Shailene was still a kid that had not yet grown up. Although they had chosen her to be the queen due to her bloodline and heritage, she had basically zero authority. Shailene stood up frostily, ordering with a majestic aura. The decision of the Elder Council? What a joke. The queen wasn't even consulted in this. Is my position as queen a joke? Elder Dorothy and Elder Doreen, I hereby command you in my position as queen to stand down immediately and take out the antidote right now. Dorothy frowned. "Your Majesty, you aren't well." Doreen, go bring her back to rest. Doreen flashed and appeared right in front of Shailene, her face filled with a warm smile. Your Majesty, come, let's head back for a rest. Shailene's eyes shimmered as she gritted her teeth. She then turned to Luo Qing, helpless before apologizing in an exasperated tone. I'm so sorry, sis. Shailene only had the strength of an initial type 4 divine warrior, whereas Doreen was near the peak. Furthermore, Doreen had experience under her belt, and Shailene was just not her match. Luo Qing spoke indifferently. It's nothing to do with you. I've been careless. She had not expected that as a queen, Shailene could not even muster her authority. She had put too much trust in her character and was thus poisoned by her subordinates unknowingly. Dorothy smiled. Storm Queen, please rest assured, as long as you don't resist, we will not hurt you. Luo Qing retorted icily. You guys want to hand me over to the Stegosaurus kingdom. Shameless. To think that the winged race has fallen to such depths. A line with you people had been blindness on my part. Luo Qing was, after all, an outstanding leader. Having seen the strange actions of Dorothy, she could immediately guess their intentions. In truth, if the winged race did not want to leave and lead a vagabond life, the only choice was to submit to the Stegosaurus kingdom. A look of guilt flashed past Dorothy's eyes. In the end, she sighed. It's us who have let you down. However, for the sake of our future, we have to do so. Men, grab her and keep her in the prison. The 20 winged elites in storm armor charged towards Luo Qing. Right at this moment, a loud voice barked out, Hold up, I have something to say. Everyone's attention fell on the owner of the voice, Yuzhong. Dorothy eyed him coldly. What is it? He chuckled, pointing toward the entrance of the cavern, drawling indifferently. I think you guys are in for some trouble. At this moment, alarms blared throughout the entire Honeycomb City. Following a loud sound, a huge explosion rang out from the caverns as dozens of winged people flew out, their mouths filled with blood. At the same time, hundreds more flew out from behind them, seeming to flee pathetically. Dorothy's eyes flashed with shock as she screeched, What's going on? How can our defenses fall so easily? What's happening? At the entrance of their caverns, there were plenty of defensive weapons. Even a Type 4 mutant beast would have to pay a huge price to try and invade. However, right now, their defensive line had been broken by some unknown force. This caused Dorothy to be shocked. Right in front of them, a huge monitor lizard of about 10 m, its entire body covered in scales, came crawling in swiftly. Yuzhong activated his eyes of perception and received a flurry of information. Type 4 mutant beast. Prehistoric monitor lizard. It can easily scale mountain walls and possesses a tough hide. With its nimble movement and strength, as well as its innate poisonous ability, it is a formidable existence. After Yuzhong's eyes of perception was strengthened to the second-order stage, as well as his physique reaching the peak of Type 4, the information he got from any mutant beast of Type 4 and below was a lot more comprehensive. The Type 4 monitor lizard was covered with countless arrows stuck in its scale, as well as a huge bone arrow that had pierced through an area of its body. It was obviously enraged, and as it charged in, it began to crush and destroy a number of honeycomb structures. The speed of the monitor lizard was extremely quick and deft, its charging speed reaching the sound barrier. In a few breaths, it had reached the center of the Honeycomb City, and with every swing of its tail, it would cause a building to crumble, while the winged warriors within would be forced to fly out. The moment those winged warriors flew out, they suddenly disappeared without a trace. Seeing this, many others began to fly out from their own homes. In just an instant, it was like a swarm of winged people flying out of the honeycomb structures, looking like bees. Since they were an intelligent race, while they might have some outstanding warriors, they would also have some cowards within them. A particular group made their way towards the entrance in a bid to get out of here. To their horror, just as they reached the entrance, they suddenly disappeared in one fell swoop as well. Following that, another Type 4 prehistoric monitor lizard leaped in from the entrance, entering the city. Not long after that, yet another Type 4 prehistoric monitor lizard followed suit. Their numbers began to increase as they invaded and tore through the city. In just a few moments, there was a dozen of them. They began to unleash carnage and slaughter everywhere they crawled. Their tails would swing into buildings, destroying them, and the moment the winged people appeared, they would vanish mysteriously. Even those that were flying at about 100 meters in the skies, as long as they got near the prehistoric monitor lizards, they would disappear without a trace. Many brave winged warriors flapped their wings, wielding their bows and firing at the monitor lizards. The arrows only served to bounce off the thick armors. A few stronger ones managed to land and pierce through, yet those arrows were like toothpicks, not causing much damage. Instead, the beasts continued to advance further towards the directions of the winged warriors, causing them to disappear again. Such a strange sight was causing the rest to be bewildered and fearful. Dorothy soared into the air, her face pale at the sight of hell within their homeland. What's going on? How did these monitor lizards suddenly band together to attack us? These monitor lizards were smaller than those Type 4 Diplodocus and Triceratops, and their strength might not be comparable to those large ones. However, they had fast speed, astonishing defenses, and strange means. To the winged race, they were practically disaster. Dorothy's eyesight was powerful, and she caught sight of a few Dino warriors charging in from the entrance like ants. Her eyes flashed with despair. Those are Dino people. Damn it, these are the troops from the Stegosaurus kingdom. They've come. Yu Zhong's heart sank upon hearing those words. Dino people? Shit, we're in a jam now. Previously, Yu Zhong had managed to strike preemptively with the help of Mount Tai and Turtle. However, this cavern in the mountains was only about a few hundred meters away from the ground. If he were to summon Mount Tai, it would likely get stuck. Hearing Dorothy's cry of despair, many winged people had looks of shock and fear on their faces as well. They knew the savagery their enemies were capable of. Once they killed their way over, all that awaited was death. Lars' eyes flashed with a strange glint as he pointed at Yu Zhong's party. It's them. Those humans must have lured the Dino people over. Kill them. After that, we can present their heads to the Stegosaurus kingdom to plead for mercy. They will spare us. At Lars' shout, many of the upper-class winged people turned to stare at Yu Zhong's party, their eyes filled with rage. Many of them raised their spears and let out howls of fury. Chapter 843. Intense Battle. Chapter 843. Intense Battle. Yu Zhong eyed them and barked out coldly, a bunch of fools. Now that the Dino people have already broken in, based on their nature, they will definitely wipe you all out. The only ones willing to help you guys are us. What you should be doing is to fight against those beasts and Dino people, not us. You want to make enemies out of us as well. After that, he turned to Lars with a heavy, killing intent. This male warrior had tried his patience time and time again. If it was not for the upper-class winged people all around, he would have acted to kill this Lars a long time ago. Hearing Yu Zhong's words, the faces of the winged people turned pale. They knew the nature of the Dino people. With them, as long as they attacked, they would make a clean job out of it. Lars could not help but retreat a few steps when stared by Yu Zhong. He continued to shout out loudly, "Don't trust him. As long as we capture these humans and hand them over to the General Ku Wei, they will let us go and discuss a peace treaty. We can become their vassal force." Yu Zhong's face fell as he barked out suddenly, activating his art of fear together, assaulting Lars. You actually dared to collude with the Dino army's Ku Wei and sell out your own race to them. Speak. What did they promise you for you to betray your own people and become their dog? Affected by the art of fear, Lars panicked even more as his face fell, and he stammered, I didn't betray our race. General Ku Wei promised that as long as our race submits to them, he will accept us as their vassal. Yu Zhong laughed coldly and swept a glance over the rest of the winged elites. Everyone has heard it now. These Dino people weren't led here by us. It was this fool of a trash that had revealed your location to the enemy. When Lars heard Yu Zhong's words, his face turned pale and he looked around, only to discover furious gazes on him. He had come in contact with people from the Stegosaurus kingdom before. It was precisely his foolish actions that led the Type 4 prehistoric monitor lizards and dino warriors here. Yu Zhong then looked at Dorothy, his tone solemn. "Elder Dorothy, you had best take out the antidote. You know clearly the Storm Queen's capabilities. With her help, we might have a chance to deal with those freaks." Hearing his words, some of the upper echelons of the winged race exchanged looks, obviously in a dilemma. They had just used poison on Luo Qing to seal her powers now. They had to help her diffuse it. They were afraid of her anger and retaliation. With a peak Type 4 Divine Warrior strength, as well as the Storm Armor, if Luo Qing chose to push her strength to the Type 5 realm and fought with the winged race, they would definitely suffer. Dorothy flew down and handed a bottle over to Luo Qing with a sincere, apologetic expression. "It was my fault. I'm sorry. Esteemed Storm Queen, this was all on me. It has nothing to do with the winged race. If you want revenge, after this, I will hand myself over to you. However, I hope that you can let slide for now and help our winged race." Although Dorothy was not an ideal governor, her foresight was decent. With the critical situation at hand, if all of them could work together, there was a chance to avert this disaster. If it were just the winged race, then the dozens of Type 4 prehistoric monitor lizards were enough to wipe them out. Luo Qing downed the contents of the vial in one go, feeling her energy return to her. She shot Dorothy a cold look while speaking icily. "Don't worry, I'm not as stupid as you. I will help you, purely because the winged race is our ally. Our Storm Valley does not have the habit of betraying our allies." Immediately, Dorothy and the other various elders felt a sense of shame. The battle is commencing. Dorothy quickly readjusted her emotions and turned to the various winged warriors and declared. With that simple order, the various winged warriors flapped their wings and left quickly to reorganize themselves and their troops. In the city, each upper-class personnel was the leader of their own clan. Because they were away, the rest of the warriors were caught unprepared and unorganized. That was why they were easily killed. Once the leaders left, Yu Zhong swiftly came up to Dorothy and asked seriously, "Dorothy, are there any escape tunnels in your honeycomb city?" This time, the Dino army came prepared. Yu Zhong was not sure if there were any experts or trump cards they were prepared to utilize. If he could choose, he would rather flee. Dorothy's eyes flashed as she replied bitterly, "No, we have never prepared anything of the sort. The entire honeycomb city was built up through the efforts of the winged race, and during the design process, they had not taken into consideration the possibility of needing an escape route." Yu Zhong eyed the entrance and frowned as he cursed lowly. "Shit, so we can only attack? That's not such a good idea." Outside the cavern city, it was unknown how many Dino people were lying in wait. Thinking about the possibility of facing another mid-grade Dino-General caused his scalp to turn numb. Right at this time, the genius Lai Wei came up to Yu Zhong, shooting him a disdainful look. "Coward, are you scared? Dying on the battlefield is a given for us warriors, especially when dying to protect our homeland. It is the greatest honor." Yu Zhong turned to her. "The problem is this is not my home. Lai Wei, you're a soldier that belongs to me now. Your life is already not yours, but mine. Unless you're intending to go back on our bet." Lai Wei's pupils narrowed slightly as she stepped forward, a resolute look flashing by her eyes. "Yes. According to our agreement, I'm your subordinate. However, this is my country. I'm a warrior of the winged race. I have to fight for my country. If I survive today, I will follow your orders. As of now, I'm still a winged warrior." After that, she immediately flapped her wings and soared towards the front lines. Yu Zhong watched his prize flying off and shook his head slightly. With a flash, he swiftly leaped after her. Lai Wei was not controlled by the puppet rune after all, and still possessed her own thinking and fighting will. To her, Protecting her home was more important than the result of the bet between Yu Zhong and her. Han Zixin followed tightly behind Yu Zhong. She was no longer one of the Storm 8 greats, instead his personal guard. At the front lines, a Type 4 monitor lizard was destroying countless structures. At the same time, the winged warriors were disappearing mysteriously. As the leaders of the respective clans returned to their positions, many of their subordinates flew out from behind, swarming the skies. Release the arrows. Following the orders of the respective leaders, arrows rained down upon the mutant beast. Facing the torrential arrows, the Type 4 monitor lizard displayed its ferociousness. The arrows bounced off its scales, and while many of the arrows shot by the Type 2 divine warriors managed to pierce through the scales, yet they were like toothpicks on its back. Some of the stronger ones fired off by the Type 3 divine warriors managed to penetrate the skin, drawing the slightest bit of blood. However, it was not enough to cause any major harm to the beast. It was still sufficient to enrage it, as its body flashed and charged towards the winged warrior forces at the speed of sound. Everywhere it went, a large patch of the winged warriors would disappear mysteriously. Beast, go to hell. At this time, 10 winged warriors in storm battle armor charged their suit with the Type 3 nuclei on their back, pushing their strength to the Type 4 realm as they aimed their bow and arrows at the beast and let loose more arrows. 10 arrows shot out like fearsome laser beams, piercing through the eyes of the monitor lizard, causing it to burst open in a gory rain of blood and flesh. It was the first time being injured gravely. Some of the elite warriors knew the weakness of these monitor lizards, which were their eyes. In fact, the eyes were one of the weaker spots among most mutant beasts. The Type 4 monitor lizard began to struggle in agony, twisting its massive body as it continued to rampage throughout the city. Just as the 10 elite winged warriors wanted to charge forth to hunt another, a black torrent shot out towards them from one of the monitor lizards below. They quickly scattered. However, 4 of them were just a beat slower and were instantly wrapped by that black shape, turning into a puddle of liquid. As for the remaining 6 elites who had just dispersed, one monitor lizard took the opportunity to pounce towards them. Swish! Swish! In barely a second, all of them disappeared without a trace. What a fast tongue! Yu Zhong had caught sight of what happened and was shocked. Chapter 844 Morale. Chapter 844 Morale. The reason why the winged warriors have been disappearing nearby the monitor lizards was because the speed of their tongues was extremely fast. In just a blink of an eye, their tongues could extend out and catch a number of winged warriors into their mouths. If it attacked suddenly, even Yu Zhong would not be able to evade that tongue. If a Type 5 divine warrior was caught unprepared, similarly, they would be dragged into its mouth. Lena. At this moment, a heartbreaking scream rang out from the skies as Lai Wei turned enraged and channeled the power of the storm armor, drawing her bow. A single bone arrow shot through space, slamming into the monitor lizard, blasting a fist-sized hole in its body. However, its recovery rate was extremely powerful. The wound started healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. It leaped up and swiftly pounced towards Lai Wei, shooting its tongue out at her. Lai Wei's combat experience made her a fearful opponent. She had seen the terror of the tongue for herself, and the moment the monitor lizard moved, she had already soared upwards. The monitor lizard felt its tongue smack thin air. It was the first time it had missed. Lai Wei's expression was pale. She had nearly been pulled into the beast's mouth. However, with her experience, she had made the correct call and quickly flew backward while firing nonstop at the Type 4 monitor lizard. Effective range, 200 m. Method of attack, tongue, poison body. Its speed is fast. Lightning and Greenie would not be a match for it. Yu Zhong observed quietly and made a quick assessment. In such terrain, it was disadvantageous for Lightning and Greenie. If they were not careful, they could be held down by the tongue and be corroded by the poisonous spit. They were more compatible to fight in a wide area, bringing with them the element of surprise. These monitor lizards were their banes. Come on out, turtle. With a thought, Yu Zhong activated his beast summoning technique. A void appeared in midair, and the house-sized turtle lumbered out. The moment turtle appeared, it quickly shot out a huge breath of frosty air towards the monitor lizard. The monitor lizard's response was slightly slower, and it was quickly frozen solid into an ice sculpture. Yu Zhong shot forward, dashing towards the monitor lizard like a lightning bolt. The monitor lizard had an immense strength and resilient life force as well. It shuddered strongly, causing the ice around it to crack, as countless parts broke off. At the moment the ice shattered, Yu Zhong, who was in his light gold sun armor, his strength pushed to the peak of Type 5 realm, appeared on top of the monitor lizard's head, the sun battle spear in his hands, striking down viciously. A bright burst of gold light shone outwards, piercing the head of the mutant beast, tearing it apart. The sun battle spear could utilize the energy from a user to become a powerful burst to attack enemies. However, while its might was tremendous, the energy consumption was likewise extravagant. If he continued like this, it would take another 10 times for his might to be depleted. Strong. That was the human Yu Zhong. He's truly strong. Powerful. We can win. With him, we definitely can win. Seeing how Yu Zhong destroyed the seemingly invincible Type 4 monitor lizard in a flash, the morale of the winged race soared from the depths of despair. They began to recover the will to fight. It was the whole point of Yu Zhong not holding back his energy to put on such a display. Without any morale, most troops that had lost hope would find it hard to even fight with 70% or 80% of their strength. With a little hope, together with the notion of fighting for their home, these winged warriors would be able to exert 120%. Yu Zhong looked at Lai Wei in the skies and barked, "Go deal with the Dino people. Let me handle these monsters." By now, a large number of Dino warriors had also charged in right behind the mutant beasts. They were aiming to slaughter those missed by the monitor lizards. After Yu Zhong's display of strength, all the winged warriors regained their confidence and focus, instantly adjusting their emotions and charging for the Dino warriors. Arrows rained down upon the Dino warriors without stop. These Dino warriors only had Type 3 Divine Warrior strength, their bodies covered with Type 3 or Type 4 mutant beast hide. They were naturally struck down by the rain of arrows. These winged warriors had incredible archery skills, and although they were unable to deal much damage to those Type 4 monitor lizards, it was mainly due to the recovery skills of the beasts. Therefore, they were more effective against the weaker Dino warriors. As for the Dino warriors themselves, they were elite warriors as well, retrieving their own bows and arrows to return fire on the winged warriors. The dense rain of arrows fell upon both sides. Every passing second, another warrior would be killed. With a powerful gust of cold air, another monitor lizard was frozen solid. Yu Zhong dashed forward onto the top of the ice sculpture, using his sun battle spear to strike down viciously, piercing the head and absorbing the powerful life force. At this moment, a sense of danger arose in Yu Zhong's heart. All of a sudden, a nearby monitor lizard appeared, opening its jaws to fire out its tongue towards him. The speed of the monitor lizard was simply too fast. Even with his enhanced Type 5 realm, Yu Zhong was unable to dodge in time. Caught by the tongue, he was pulled quickly into the mouth of the monitor lizard. Chapter 845, Survival from Danger. Chapter 845, Survival from Danger. The teeth of the Type 4 prehistoric monitor lizards were extremely sharp. Even a Type 5 divine warrior would be crushed to a pulp. Even at that critical point, Yu Zhong maintained his calm and gathered his energy into the battle spear in his right hand. With all his might, he thrust towards the monitor lizard, causing a powerful golden radiance to burst out, slamming into the head of the beast, directly penetrating it. Following its death, its mighty jaws began to close, and the sharp teeth also came down towards Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong flipped his hands, and a Type 4 nucleus energy shield appeared, glowing brightly as it conjured a powerful shield out of thin air. This energy shield was precisely the efforts of one of the new Storm 8 greats, Fanina. The teeth of the Type 4 monitor lizard came slamming down on the shield, causing it to shudder slightly. However, they could not penetrate the shield. Yu Zhong then swung his battle spear, slashing the tongue apart. He then dashed out of the mouth. "Watch out, Yu Zhong!" The moment he leaped out the mouth, Luo Qingqing's shout traveled from the sky. Yu Zhong felt an intense sense of danger, and he twisted his body. At that instant, a frightening salvo of arrows pierced through the sky, slamming into Yu Zhong. They ripped through the sun battle armor, going through his body, causing him to soar slightly into the sky. A low-grade Dino-General eyed Yu Zhong coldly while wielding his bow. That salvo of arrows was precisely fired by him. His accuracy was terrifying, and he was considered a top-notch archer in the Stegosaurus kingdom. Many Type 5 divine warriors of other races and species had fallen at his hands. He was one of the experts that had joined on the expedition this time. "Go to hell, monster!" As the low-grade Dino-General was about to fire another salvo, Luo Qingqing swooped down on him, her body covered by numerous wind blades. The storm immediately buffeted the low-grade Dino-General. The low-grade Dino-General had his fair share of battles, and with a tap of his foot, he retreated backward. He lifted his bow to slam into the storm battle spear of Luo Qingqing. After donning the equipment, Luo Qingqing was at a Type 5 realm. Her skills and powers were at a different level. With a flash of her spear, it thrust out in a series of aftershadows, disappearing from the sight of the low-grade Dino-General. The next moment, it suddenly pierced through his heart mysteriously, as countless wind blades exploded from the point of impact, slicing the low-grade Dino-General up into many pieces. The Dino people had stronger physiques and a regenerative power compared to humans. That was why Luo Qingqing knew the best choice was to slice up their bodies before they could regenerate. Luo Qingqing had just killed the low-grade Dino-General when the other 18 of them let out howls of anguish and charged over. The low-grade Dino-Generals had witnessed Luo Qingqing's strength. That was why they chose to team up to deal with her. Every one of them had the strength of a peak Type 4 divine warrior, while the best among them was half-step into the Type 5 realm. With all 18 of them working together, even a Type 5 divine warrior would find it hard to beat them. Luo Qingqing turned her gaze to them, her eyes flashing with a powerful desire to battle. With a tap of her foot, she directly charged towards 3 of them, intending to deal with them first. The moment she moved, a number of powerful wind blades blew out around her, tearing the Dino warriors into pieces. At that moment, on the battlefield, she showcased her true strength as the Storm Queen. On the other side, Yu Zhong had been flung a distance away, bleeding badly. Below him, 3 Type 4 monitor lizards dashed forward with all their speed, pouncing towards him. They opened their jaws and shot out their powerful and fast tongues. In midair, a large void appeared, as white bones leaped out, turning into an orb of light that enveloped Yu Zhong, becoming a sharp bone carapace. The 3 tongues came swirling around Yu Zhong's body. In response, the bone blades on the bone carapace started to twist and grind, slicing up the tongues in a shower of blood. Having their tongues broken, the 3 mutant beasts quickly retracted them, their eyes revealing a pained expression. Their tongue was their main tool for hunting prey. Even smaller Type 5 divine warriors could die in their mouths. Now that the tongues were destroyed, they were filled with fury towards Yu Zhong. The 3 of them opened their stinky mouths and fired out poison towards Yu Zhong. At the same time, on the front lines, many Dino warriors had raised their bows and were firing nonstop at Yu Zhong, their arrows raining down like water drops. Yu Zhong's act of dealing with the 3 previous monitor lizards had caught the attention of the Dino warriors. That was why they immediately focused fire on him. The Type 4 mutant beasts were ferocious and violent, a preferred killing tool utilized often by the Dino people. They were more important than how tanks and fighter jets were important on Earth. Having lost 3 to Yu Zhong, these Dino warriors were enraged. In midair, Yu Zhong had no way of evading. He could only activate his gravity manipulation and increase his weight by 8 times, his entire body descending downwards like a huge boulder. Since the sky was filled with arrows, even as Yu Zhong was plummeting towards the ground, a huge number of arrows still landed on him. Every one of the Dino warriors had the strength of a peak-type 3 divine warrior, their arrows made out of powerful mutant beast bones. The fearsome arrows managed to pierce through parts of his bone carapace before being stopped by the sun battle armor. However, the arrows still managed to bring with them a powerful force that was not weaker than the impact of a rocket, causing Yu Zhong's insides to shudder and his body racked with pain. Fortunately, his endurance was high. Together with his body of steel, he was not too gravely injured. Even so, he suffered some pain. With that move, he managed to dodge the 3 poison spit. Unfortunately, they landed on some winged warriors nearby, and the affected winged warriors immediately screamed out miserably as their bodies started to corrode. The strength of the monitor lizard's poison was terrifying. Just the slightest bit of contact could kill a person. It was truly overbearing. Dozens of arrows landed on Yu Zhong, making him look like a porcupine. With his gravity manipulation still in effect, he continued plunging towards the ground. The moment he landed, a low-grade Dino-General appeared in front of him, sending out a powerful fist. He wanted to slam Yu Zhong back up into the sky. His fellow comrades would then be able to fire continuously to kill him. Yu Zhong's eyes flashed coldly, and without holding back, he sent a powerful slap enveloped by devil flames towards the low-grade Dino-General. The low-grade Dino-General was too close to Yu Zhong, and without any time to defend himself, he was consumed by the flames. He began to wail and struggle amidst the pain, while his radiance of life glowed to protect himself. Yu Zhong's battle spear shot out like a dangerous dragon, piercing the head of the low-grade Dino-General, allowing a large amount of life force to enter Yu Zhong's body through the god and devil imprint. It instantly calmed the turbulent blood and energy, at the same time regenerating a little of his stamina. He flipped his left hand, and the electromagnetic gun appeared. With a tap of his foot, he charged towards one of the monitor lizards, firing out multiple beams towards the numerous Dino warriors gathering towards him. Since his firearms manipulation had been pushed to the second order, his accuracy was multiple times better than any sharpshooter from before the apocalypse on Earth. Within 100 meters, as long as any Dino warrior had not utilized its max speed, they would be killed instantly by Yu Zhong. The winged race was also helping to suppress the Dino warriors from up in the skies. In a few breaths, Yu Zhong had appeared in front of the Type 4 monitor lizard. The beast had its tongue destroyed earlier, and it immediately charged towards Yu Zhong. With a glint in his eyes, Yu Zhong aimed at the beast and fired multiple times. The electromagnetic beams were fired at its eyes, and one managed to blast it apart as blood and matter splattered out on the ground. Yu Zhong's speed was extremely fast. Before the Type 4 monitor lizard had a chance to react, he had already fired through the other eye in a mad salvo. Under the barrage of beams, the other eye also burst apart as blood flowed out in a gory manner. Chapter 846, Dino-General Coup Feng. Chapter 846, Dino-General Coup Feng. After destroying both eyes of the Type 4 monitor lizard, Yu Zhong swiftly turned and dashed towards another direction. To kill a single beast like that, with his current enhanced strength, it would take a huge amount of energy through the battle spear just to kill in one blast. However, it took up too much energy, and with such a method, Yu Zhong would be left exhausted after doing it 10 times. Once he left, the monitor lizard let out howls of pain and fury, twisting its body around maniacally, crushing a number of unfortunate Dino warriors nearby it. In the skies, Lai Wei barked, "Don't attack the blinded Type 4 monitor lizard. Attack those damn Dino warriors." Those blinded monitor lizards were no longer a threat to the winged race for the time being. Instead, they became obstacles for the Dino warriors, slamming into them during their rampage. Yu Zhong appeared in front of another Type 4 monitor lizard in a few breaths. In response, the monitor lizard also dashed towards him. Yu Zhong cocked his electromagnetic gun and borrowed the enhanced speed of his Type 5 realm to fire at both its eyes. After destroying them, he dashed off towards the remaining monitor lizard whose tongue had been sliced by him earlier. Utilizing the increase in speed, he also dealt with its eyes smoothly. When he was done, he made his way towards the other monitor lizards, which were still largely uninjured. One of them suddenly opened its mouth to shoot its tongue at him. In response, Yu Zhong made use of the bone blades of the carapace to twist once more, slicing the tongue up as blood splattered everywhere. At this moment, the monitor lizard suddenly fired a poisonous pit towards Yu Zhong. His face turned drastically, summoning the energy shield once more in front of him. The terrifying poisonous spit landed on his shield and emitted sizzling sounds. The poison was so strong to even corrode the energy shield produced. The beast then seized the chance to pounce on Yu Zhong, opening its jaws wide to bite down viciously. Other than the tongue, the bite of these monitor lizards was also terrifying, containing a tremendous bite force. Coupled with its natural agility, few prey ever survive such attacks. Yu Zhong tapped his foot immediately after the poison was spit onto the shield, retreating backward explosively. He knew the danger of tackling the Type 4 monitor lizards at close range, and if not careful, he could also be killed instantly. The Type 4 monitor lizard clamped down on thin air. Yu Zhong's pupils constricted and fired out a few more electromagnetic beams with his gun, blasting the eyes of the monitor lizard. "Watch out, Sir Yu Zhong, beneath you." At this moment, Han Zixin's scream sounded out. She was currently pushing the limits of her storm armor with the Type 4 nucleus to engage the Dino warriors in combat. She had been dispatching them with some ease. Below, shit. Sweeping his gaze, Yu Zhong realized that his surroundings had already been covered in the poisonous spit of the Type 4 monitor lizard. In fact, one of his foot was covered with it, and there was poisonous fog rising, a result of his soles being corroded. With a thought, 2 balls of devil flames appeared at his feet, instantly burning the poison. "Watch out!" Right at this time, Han Zixin let out another piercing scream in anxiety. Yu Zhong felt his danger perception ringing incessantly, and he shot out 2 bone spikes to send himself up to the skies. A shadow suddenly bolted out of nowhere, sweeping a kick towards the spikes, crushing the bones. Yu Zhong raised his hands to fire a spider silk from his ring, latching onto a honeycomb structure. He then retracted the silk, pulling himself towards there, while sweeping his gaze below. He discovered a Dino-General with the visage and aura of a demon, covered entirely in sharp bone spikes and a layer of black spikes. The Dino-General was charging towards him, his fist punching out at a terrifying speed towards Yu Zhong's heart. That punch had no glow or special abilities attached. It was just pure speed, so fast that even Yu Zhong at his enhanced Type 5 realm could not evade. Mid-grade Dino-General. Yu Zhong's face fell, his eyes flashing with a fierce glint. He pushed his might, enveloping the battle spear in his arms, and thrust out towards the incoming Dino-General. He wanted to use the tactic of causing mutual harm to fight it out with this Dino-General. Every single mid-grade Dino-General had at least a peak Type 5 divine warrior strength. It was because they were the strongest race on this planet and had an advantageous physique. In terms of body constitution, they were even above the flesh-eaters and vampires of the second world. Yu Zhong was not a match for such freaks. Although he had crawled through countless battles with zombies and beasts, these Dino-Generals were a different story altogether. They had gone on multiple conquests throughout the lands, their battle experience not losing out to Yu Zhong, in fact, maybe even surpassing his. Only by risking his life would there be a chance to survive. The eyes of the mid-grade Dino-General flashed coldly, as his radiance of life shone out, while he twisted an impossible angle, dodging that critical strike of Yu Zhong. At the same time, he swung his tail to slam viciously into Yu Zhong's body, causing him to shoot back, smashing through the honeycomb structures. With that single strike, Yu Zhong felt his chest area compressed as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression was pale, and his inner organs were in turmoil. The bone carapace was shattered in many areas, but fortunately, it had helped negate some part of the force, protecting the sun battle armor. However, there was still a long, powerful gash right smack in the middle. Shit, that was painful. To think that there would be a mid-grade Dino-General. Yu Zhong coughed out a few more mouthfuls of blood, thoughts flitting through his mind. Huh! With a loud boom, the mid-grade Dino-General had destroyed the wall of the honeycomb building and leaped in. His gaze immediately fixed upon Yu Zhong lying in a pool of his blood, and he dashed forwards without any mercy, throwing another punch towards Yu Zhong's heart. The punch pierced through the chest of Yu Zhong, causing him to disperse into dust. Beside the mid-grade Dino-General, the real body of Yu Zhong had been in stealth, thrusting viciously with his sun battle spear. Clone, ability to hide in the shadows. You are Yu Zhong of the Vulture Valley? You beast, you killed 20 of our Stegosaurus Kingdom's Dino-Generals. Very good. Today, I will tear you apart, using your blood to pay respects to my fallen brothers. Remember, the one to kill you is called Feng. Feng's eyes flashed viciously as he grabbed onto the sun battle spear. At that moment, Yu Zhong let go of it, causing the battle spear to be knocked away violently. Yu Zhong seized that chance to enter within range, his fist covered with devil flames to punch out at Feng's heart. Feng's gaze turned cold as he slashed out without losing his calm towards Yu Zhong's right arm. The devil flame burst forth with more intensity. You're a flame-based controller. This I already know. Seal for me. With a loud bellow, the radiance of life from his body burst forth, enveloping the devil flames, pushing it back before he clamped down violently. With a loud crack, the bones of Yu Zhong's right arm were instantly shattered from the force of Feng's grip. Although Yu Zhong was considered a top expert among humans, his physique astonishing and powerful, against these Dino warriors who were even more freakish, he was still far off. Go to hell! Since he gained the upper hand, Feng let out a savage smile and tugged on Yu Zhong's right arm towards himself. Yu Zhong's pupils constricted as a powerful blast of devil flame burst outwards from his body, before transforming into a flame dragon that enveloped around Feng. Ever since the devil flame was pushed to the third order, Yu Zhong's control over it had become extremely minute. Its might had also increased by leaps and bounds. Feng stared at Yu Zhong, enveloped by the devil flames, and laughed coldly, before flinging him forcefully towards a wall. Yu Zhong slammed into the wall, suppressing his pain as he fired out another flame dragon towards Feng. With a cold chuckle, Feng disappeared from his position suddenly. Yu Zhong felt alarmed and twisted around, his gaze sweeping the area. All of a sudden, a sense of danger welled up, and he quickly leaped to one side while curling his body tightly. At the same moment, a powerful arrow shot out from a particular corner, slamming into his left shoulder with the force of a comet strike, directly piercing through his bone carapace, sun battle armor, even the Type 5 Mutant B-scale armor. After the threefold defense, it directly tore through Yu Zhong's body of steel, piercing into his bone, and shattered his left shoulder. In a corner, Feng was wielding his bow, his gaze cold. It was him who had shot that arrow. Against a fire tribute expert like Yu Zhong, close-quarter combat was disadvantageous. Thus, he had relied on his powerful archery skills to assault Yu Zhong. Among the mid-grade Dino-Generals, he was considered one of the best, having shot and killed a Type 5 mutant beast before. Chapter 847, Killing Feng. Chapter 847, Killing Feng. Yu Zhong rolled on the ground in agony, towards a building behind, as he hurried to activate his second-order stealth. In the blink of an eye, his aura disappeared. The stealth skill was extremely useful in battle. As long as Yu Zhong left the sight of Feng, he could quickly make use of it together with his shadow clone ability to confuse his enemies. Yu Zhong darted into the honeycomb structure, flipping his hands and laying a few remote-controlled bombs noiselessly at the various corners. The humans of the Second World were versed in acts of terrorism, utilizing such means to attack the Saint Clan. Since their personal strength was lacking, making use of such explosives, they had dealt with some Type 4 Saint Clan members before. With a tap of his foot, Feng dashed towards the direction where Yu Zhong was last at. In a few breaths, he charged right into the honeycomb structure. He had already deemed Yu Zhong a must-kill target. At the same time, his strength was vastly superior to Yu Zhong. Thus, he was not afraid of whatever means Yu Zhong might employ. At the moment he entered, he suddenly felt danger, and he raised both hands to protect his head. Honk! Honk! Powerful explosions happened right in front of him, as the shockwaves and force enveloped him entirely. Having gained an advantage, Yu Zhong did not dare stay. Quickly turned around to flee the area. Feng was too powerful as a mid-grade Dino-General, and Yu Zhong did not think that he was capable of blasting this freak to death with just some explosives. Before the dust could settle, a powerful figure loomed and dashed out of the area of impact. It was precisely Feng. The powerful explosions that could cause even an armored vehicle to be blasted into bits and pieces only managed to cause some small wounds on him. His body was char-black, but there was no real harm done. Damn freak! Yu Zhong eyed the uninjured Feng and could not help but curse. It was likely that only these Dino warriors were able to resist the impact of explosions and blasts without any damage. If it were him who was caught in such a frightening display of explosives, he would have been injured gravely as well. Feng's speed was incredibly disgusting. The explosions barely did anything to slow him down. He had almost leaped out right after the explosions, appearing in front of Yu Zhong, sending out a powerful punch. Yu Zhong immediately covered his body with a thick, dark dough qi. He threw out a slap of his own with all his might. Feng's tyrannical strength burst forth at that instant, sending Yu Zhong flying once more through another honeycomb structure. He spat out another mouthful of blood, before pulling himself together to summon 3 shadow clones that separated in various directions. With a cold glint, Feng pulled out a handful of metal balls and threw them at all 4 Yu Zhongs, shooting towards them like cannonballs. 3 of them instantly disintegrated when struck, while the remaining true body was sent flying once more. Feng had a cold, mocking look as he shot towards Yu Zhong in a beam of light. Yu Zhong made use of the surrounding buildings to weave in and out, trying his best to shake off Feng. However, despite his best efforts, the Dino-General was approaching ever so slowly. Feng, today will be your death day. After passing another 2 structures, Yu Zhong suddenly came to a stop, his eyes flashing coldly as he turned around. He then pressed down on a remote control. Honk! Honk! Following 2 loud explosions, Feng was directly enveloped by the 2 planet explosives. Just with your broken toys? If you want to hurt me, you'll require at least a Type 2 energy bomb. These toys are too backward. Fool! In the huge cloud of dust, Feng continued to dash towards Yu Zhong like a demon. If the explosives are useless, what about these? With a fierce glint in his eyes, Yu Zhong flung his right hand as a powerful devil flame dragon shot towards Feng. Stupid, your control over fire is too weak. Feng looked at the devil flame dragon coiling towards his heart and laughed coldly. He tapped his foot and appeared to the right, easily dodging the strike. Right at this time, a green shadow shot out from behind Feng. The storm battle spear in her hands gathered with energy, thrusting towards him. If it hit, even a Type 5 peak divine warrior would be heavily injured. Storm Queen Luo Qing, I never thought that as a ruler of a faction, you would resort to such petty tricks. You've really opened my eyes. Feng swept his gaze towards the green shadow, twisting his body and lowered it to the ground. His right leg then came kicking at the storm battle spear with a powerful force. With that attack, the storm battle spear was sent flying, while a powerful green energy beam shot to the sky, causing a deep hole in the mountain cavern. At the same time, there was a strange change in Feng's body. His tail that was covered with sharp spikes swung towards Luo Qingqing's body, piercing through the storm battle armor, slashing into her skin, and sending her flying dozens of meters backward. A large amount of fresh blood flowed from her wounds, and she looked miserable. The Dino people was one of the terrifying races with powerful combat skills among all the intelligent life forms that Yu Zhong had come across. Furthermore, on top of the Stegosaurus kingdom, there was the other Tyrannosaurus kingdom, Venutosaurus kingdom, and various other Dino races. These were existences that far surpassed the humans. Even a peak-type 5 divine warrior from the human race might not necessarily survive a battle with a Dino-General of the same realm. Afar, Han Zixian's eyes turned extremely red as she borrowed the power from the storm battle armor to boost her strength, forcefully raising it to the Type 5 realm. She then unleashed her ice abilities as a powerful freezing field covered Feng. Everywhere the freezing aura touched, they would turn to ice sculptures. Her moment of attack had been at the same time as Luo Qingqing. Thus, when Luo Qingqing was sent flying away with a kick, the terrifying freezing field had blown towards Feng. At that instant, Feng was enveloped in ice, his whole body turning into an ice sculpture. The layer of ice was still thickening. "Break for me!" With an angry bellow, a bright burst shone from his body, his radiance of life forcefully shattering the ice. Even the Type 5 ice energy was unable to keep him sealed for long. The moment he shook off the residual ice, Han Zixian stared with her eyes bloodshot, when suddenly her body began to tear in multiple areas as blood splattered everywhere. She then crumpled to the floor. Han Zixian was after all a peak-type 3 divine warrior. After fighting beside Yu Zhong, she had fortunately raised her strength to the Type 4 realm. However, as she had just advanced not too long ago, she was still unused to her new condition and could not maintain the Type 5 strength at all. Therefore, after unleashing a move, she was struck by the powerful backlash. Feng had broken away from the terrifying freezing field, but some of the cold had seeped into his body, slowing his movements a little. Suddenly, another green shadow shot towards him, pouncing with force. Type 4 mutant beast. Feng eyed the sudden appearance of Greenie, and his face fell. His body once again shone with the radiance of life, while he tumbled to the side, barely dodging Greenie's claws. One of the targets of Feng and his troops sent here to the Winged Ray City was Yu Zhong. They hated him to the bones for killing multiple of their fellow commanders. At the same time, they had researched into his abilities, knowing that he possessed a Type 4 Green Eagle. That was how Feng could maintain his wariness and dodge such a strike from Greenie. He did a roll, when suddenly a shadow charged out from a building like a specter, opening its huge jaws towards him. It was precisely another one of Yu Zhong's pets, the Type 4 Lightning, whose speed had surpassed Feng, and adding onto the element of surprise, Feng did not manage to evade and was bitten viciously on the leg. The sharp teeth of lightning pierced through Feng's right leg, while it sent a powerful swipe towards his head. Feng was indeed tough and clear-headed. Even at a critical moment, his body burst out with a controlled radiance of life, and he forcefully severed his own right leg. His body then rolled to one side, swinging his tail towards Lightning's claws. That blow forced Lightning's claws away. At the same time, the sharp bone blades dug into its flesh, tearing huge wounds. Fresh blood burst out in splashes. Lightning roared in agony and was knocked back. As an agility-based mutant beast, its strength could not compare with some large Type 4 mutant beasts. However, it was still stronger than most Type 5 divine warriors. And yet, Feng was able to send it sprawling away. This showed how overbearing his strength was. Feng himself rolled away as Yu Zhong dashed over, his spear thrusting towards him. Feng's eyes flashed as he grabbed the ground and whirled once, his sharp bone spikes slashing through Yu Zhong. Clone! The Yu Zhong then crumbled, and Feng was shocked. At that moment, the Sun Battle Spear shot out explosively from the sides, directly piercing through Feng's body as a powerful radiance burst out. The moment he gained the upper hand, Yu Zhong shot forwards without hesitation, sending his battle spear through Feng's head, directly removing it with a powerful slap. Chapter 848, Type 5 Metamorphosis. Chapter 848, Type 5 Metamorphosis. With Feng's death, a large amount of life force entered Yu Zhong's body. When the pure Type 5 energy coursed through him, it combined together with the God-Devil nucleus that was constantly spinning and absorbing energy, slowly transforming it and making it bigger. Its size increased by a large amount. The God-Devil nucleus had just increased in size when a number of golden rays shone out, enhancing the various parts of Yu Zhong's body, down to the very minute cells. Congratulations, you have broken through, and are starting the Type 5 Metamorphosis. Once you are done transforming, you will become a Type 5 Divine Warrior. The metamorphosis would take 24 hours. In this 24 hours, please do not use external tools to forcefully enter the Type 5 realm. Otherwise, you might cause the metamorphosis to fail. The system announcement rang in his mind. Type 5, I am finally going to become a Type 5 Divine Warrior. When Yu Zhong heard that notification, he was filled with ecstasy, almost leaping into the skies with excitement. In this cruel world, the Type 4 Divine Warriors were still not considered true experts. Only when one was a Type 5 Divine Warrior would there be a chance to shine on the stage. As for the human race, the Type 5 realm was an unreachable plateau. Even Luo Qing, the outstanding leader of the powerful Storm Valley faction, was still merely at the peak of Type 4. As for Yu Zhong, although he lacked the resources, combat experience, and skills compared to her, he had finally broken through the critical bottleneck. This was mainly due to the God and Devil imprint on him. Without it, he could not have absorbed the life force from his defeated enemies, and would not evolve so quickly. Remembering his status, he quickly calmed his emotions down and flashed towards Han Zixian, hugging her gently. Han Zixian was covered in blood, her face pale as she laid in Yu Zhong's arms. Her expression was one of relief, helplessness, and even joy when she saw Yu Zhong, smiling. Sir, I'm sorry. Zixian is unable to carry out her promise to serve you any longer. Forcefully utilizing a strength that did not belong to oneself would ultimately cause a backlash. Yu Zhong had thus only pushed his strength to the peak of Type 5 realm. However, he would just suffer some minor injuries. This was because he would only utilize the bodily enhancement to fight. When you entered the agreement with me, you'll have to uphold it for life. I want you to live, you can't die. With a flip of his hand, the fresh blood of the Type 9 Divine Warrior appeared in his hands. He pulled Han Zixian's lips open and dripped 3 drops in her mouth. The moment those 3 drops were ingested, a powerful vitality and life force began to course through her body, healing her body at a visible rate. White Bones, go take her to the back. With a thought, White Bones disengaged from his bone carapace form, turning into a fragile skeleton that was riddled with injuries save for its legs. White Bones nodded and carried Han Zixian. With a single move, it grabbed the corpse of Feng and dashed to the back end of the battle. As he leaped, Feng's corpse began to soften, turning into a pile of rubbery meat. His bones had been completely absorbed by White Bones. The moment White Bones left, Yu Zhong turned and noticed Luo Qing covered in blood, still battling the Dino warriors in her storm armor. She was not utilizing her abilities over the tornadoes, instead, purely using her spear techniques and strength to deal with the Dino warriors. Each time she struck out with her multiple spear shadows, a Dino warrior would find his heart pierced. She looked extremely ferocious and seemingly unaffected by her own injuries. In a breath, over dozens of Dino warriors had fallen at her spear. If it had been any human enemies, they would have long since lost their confidence and fled. However, these Dino warriors were different. The more ferocious she was, the fiercer their counterattack. They gathered together, and 14 of them lunged towards her. At that moment, a salvo of arrows soared through the sky, buffeting the Dino warriors. It was precisely the aerial support troops covering Luo Qingqing. With their help, she had routed a long way to launch a sneak attack of the Dino warriors. After using her storm battle spear to kill another 30 Dino warriors, her body suddenly glowed once, as her face turned pale and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Feng was, after all, a peak-type 5 divine warrior. When its attack had slammed into her body, her physique that could not compare to Yuzhong had already suffered great injuries. Due to her rampage, it had aggravated her injuries. One Dino warrior roared out, "She's injured. Kill her. Kill this damn human." Luo Qingqing eyed the 30 over Dino warriors surrounding her, as their gazes flashed savagely and they pounced. A cold look flashed past her eyes as she readied her spear and began to unleash a torrent of counterattacks. The storm battle spear continued to flicker in and out of the light, slaying a Dino warrior each time it appeared. Strong. This is truly the Storm Queen. She's amazing. In the skies, the winged race saw how Luo Qingqing was tearing through her enemies like a tiger through sheep. They were truly filled with shock. Those female warriors knew the strength of the Dino warriors. The winged race had the advantage of the skies and had fired countless shots. And yet, they had only killed a dozen Dino warriors. Those who could truly hold their own against the Dino warriors might only be 1 or 2 of them. Also, only those type 3 winged warriors could possibly fire an accurate shot to kill a Dino warrior. Furthermore, those Dino warriors were also firing at the winged race, and their 70% accuracy rate was even more terrifying, killing various winged warriors. Some of them died instantly on impact when plunging to the ground. The winged race might have the advantage in their home. However, since the start of the battle till now, the number of winged people that died at the hands of the Dino warriors far surpassed the Dino warriors that perished. In a few breaths, Luo Qingqing had killed another 30 Dino warriors. One low-grade Dino-General appeared before her, sending a powerful fist towards her heart. Luo Qingqing raised her spear in response, thrusting out in a series of profound movements, causing the spear to disappear before piercing towards the heart. The low-grade Dino-General had a fierce glint in his eyes as he roared out in rage, his body bursting forth with the radiance of life. He did not evade or dodge, instead choosing to receive the blow while continuing his punch towards her. He was planning to die together with her. These Dino warriors were truly not afraid of death and brutal in nature. They had no concern for their own lives, unlike humans. At the same time, 6 low-grade Dino generals were rushing over. If Luo Qingqing were to retreat, they would reach her and unleash a powerful attack. Her eyes flashed with a ferocious glint as the storm battle spear penetrated the heart of the low-grade Dino general in front of her. With force, she destroyed the heart in one go. Under the protection of the radiance of life, although the low-grade Dino general sacrificed his heart, his fist continued to slam into Luo Qingqing's body, tearing apart her storm battle armor, leaving a deep gash on her. The storm battle spear flicked upwards, causing the corpse of the low-grade Dino general to be sent flying. However, her chest felt compressed, and her body was racked with a sharp pain. She then coughed out another mouthful of blood as she felt a wave of weakness, her body almost crumpling to the ground. Luo Qingqing grabbed the storm battle spear and stuck it forcefully on the ground, supporting her body weight from falling. 2 low-grade Dino generals saw this and immediately pulled out their bows, aiming at her. Two powerful bone arrows that could pierce through even the hulls of tanks were fired at Luo Qingqing's heart and head. Am I about to die? Luo Qingqing supported herself on the spear, while blood trickled down the corners of her mouth. She eyed the two incoming arrows, her eyes a look of peace and pity. She had killed an unknown number of Dino warriors and was certain that one day she would also be killed in battle. Although she could see the arrows coming at her, her body could not muster any strength. She had been kicked viciously by Feng earlier, and in truth, her body was incredibly hurt. She had managed to hold out for so long because of the storm battle armor. The physique of humans was still weaker compared to other intelligent life forms. No, Your Majesty. On the other side, Haishi let out a scream. She had just killed 2 Dino warriors and was currently held down by 9 others and could not leave. Just as Luo Qingqing was about to be killed by the 2 arrows, a shadow flitted past her, blocking in front with a large energy shield. The 2 arrows bounced off when they struck the shield. Luo Qingqing looked at the man who had saved her life, speaking with an uncontrollable hint of resentment. You're finally willing to come, Yuzhong? She had seen Yuzhong approaching Han Zixin first instead of her after killing Feng. This caused her to be filled with a strange, upset feeling that she did not comprehend. That was why she had started to go on a rampage without care for her injuries. Is this how you treat your savior? Drink this. It can help your injuries. Thanks for your help earlier. With a flip of his hand, a glass vial with a drop of the Type 9 Divine Warrior blood was passed to her, and he pulled out his electromagnetic gun, firing multiple beams at the low-grade Dino-Generals and Dino warriors. Under the multiple blasts, the heads of the Dino people were all split apart as they turned into headless corpses. Some of them managed to dodge and dispersed. The electromagnetic beams were able to penetrate the bodies of the Dino-Generals. However, their speed was fast. Therefore, it was harder to hit them. When the Type 9 Divine Warrior's blood entered Luo Qingqing's mouth, a powerful life force coursed through her body, regenerating her broken parts. Her pale countenance also regained some color. She looked at Yuzhong, who stood in front of her like a sturdy rock, focusing fire on the Dino warriors, and felt a strange emotion. He continued to kill them while speaking solemnly. Let's retreat. We're not their match right now. She eyed the droves of low-grade Dino-Generals and replied, even if we want to, they will not let us go. There were a dozen low-grade Dino-Generals charging towards them. If they joined forces, even Type 5 Divine Warriors would find it hard to deal with them. After all, these freaks did not fear death and were willing to exchange lives for lives. It was truly troublesome. Yu Zhong suddenly barked. If we can't fight them, we can call for help. Greenie, kill them. In the skies, Greenie howled once and flapped its wings to generate its innate ability. Instantly, countless wind blades blew towards the low-grade Dino-Generals. Their faces fell and quickly channeled their radiance of life, trying their best to dodge the wind blades. Retreat. With a tap of his foot, Yu Zhong retreated explosively. During his retreat, his gaze was still fixed on those low-grade Dino-Generals. All of a sudden, he fired twice, the beams penetrating the heads of 2 low-grade Dino-Generals, and their life force was absorbed by him. Go take a good rest. After covering her retreat to safety, Yu Zhong left behind a single sentence, then re-entered the battlefield. However, this time, he chose to fire from afar, the electromagnetic gun in his hand reaping the lives of the Dino warriors. Chapter 849. The Lion Opens Its Jaws. Chapter 849. The Lion Opens Its Jaws. Inside the honeycomb city, Greenie swooped down from the skies, pouncing on one monitor lizard. It pecked down viciously, and its sharp beak went through the head of the monitor lizard. At the same time, its claws dug into its body, causing fresh blood to flow out of the puncture marks. The life force of the monitor lizard was still strong, allowing it to struggle furiously. Greenie flapped its wings and soared into the skies, dragging the Type 4 Prehistoric monitor lizard with it. On the other side, Lightning had also pounced on the back of another monitor lizard. It opened its powerful jaws to bite down on the neck of the lizard, tearing off a huge chunk of flesh. The monitor lizard let out a howl of agony. Just as it wanted to retaliate, a powerful ice shard shot out and pierced through its body, injuring it heavily. Inside the cavern city, Greenie and Lightning might not be a match for all of the prehistoric monitor lizards. However, in a one-on-one clash, their strength was still above these beasts. The remaining monitor lizards were being taken down by Yu Zhong's tamed beasts, while Turtle continued to crawl towards the Dino warriors like a tank. A Type 4 crocodile-snapping turtle might not be fast on land, its movement speed losing out to the Dino warriors. However, with its size, the Dino warriors were being forced backward. Those Dino warriors who had been shot by the winged races or were forced to hide behind cover could not retreat in time and were squashed into meat paste by Turtle. Many other Dino warriors charged towards it. However, as they got close, Turtle would just open its mouth to breathe deeply, directly sucking the Dino warriors into its mouth before it crushed them. It would also fire out ice shards from time to time, piercing the bodies of the enemies. The huge weakness of Turtle was its movement speed. Its frontal assault might be strong, but its back, sides, and behind were often exposed to attacks. However, with Han Zixian beside it to guard, any Dino warriors that tried to take advantage of the weaknesses would be killed. Once she was sent to the back to recuperate, Yu Zhong quickly replaced her position, swiftly appearing beside Turtle, cooperating with it to kill those Dino warriors. The remaining monitor lizards were quickly disposed of by Yu Zhong's tamed beasts. When Lightning and Greenie entered the fray of the Dino warriors, the death toll of the Dino warriors and Dino-Generals shot up significantly. Dorothy and many other elders began to don their storm battle armor and charged into the fray as well. While the elders were arrogant and overbearing, not even respecting their queen, they were outstanding warriors on the battlefield, each of them possessing powerful archery skills. Their aim was sharp, and they would seek out the low-grade Dino-Generals to take them out together with one another. Retreat. After many more low-grade Dino-Generals were killed and facing the combined assault of the 3 mutant beasts belonging to Yu Zhong, the Dino warriors were finally at a disadvantage. In this mountain cavern, the winged race had an advantage in terrain. With the help of the 3 mutant beasts, their morale was once again high, completely suppressing the Dino warriors. Since the main commander, General Feng, had been killed by Yu Zhong, the rest of them could only choose to retreat. Once the order was given, all the Dino warriors quickly made their way out, leaving behind countless corpses. Kill! Dorothy and the rest of the elders had joy on their faces as they quickly flapped their wings to chase after them. The elites of the winged race reached the entrance of the cave when suddenly a rain of arrows fired towards the elite winged warriors. Under the salvo of arrows, many of the elites were nailed to the ground. The rest had no choice but to back up and retreat temporarily. The huge tunnel was the only way out to the outside world, and also the only path of survival. Now that it was blocked, it was practically cutting off their only way to survive. Dorothy led a few experts of the winged race to try and assault the entrance. However, with the Dino warriors holding the fort there, they would be beaten back each time, with numerous Type 3 winged warriors falling to the ground. Even Dorothy herself had suffered an arrow wound. The winged race required space for them to display their abilities to the utmost. Although the tunnel was not exactly narrow or small, there was a limit to how much the winged races could fight with their abilities. Their advantage was minimized inside there. That was what the Dino people had banked on. However, that was the only way out for the winged race. After Dorothy's party retreated, the other warriors continued to send in batch after batch to storm the entrance, only to lose several of their people. After multiple failures, the winged race surrounded the entrance, their faces grim, but they did not dare to charge in anymore. The tunnel prevented the winged race from going all out, and while they might have numerous warriors, each time they launched an assault, they could only deploy 100 or so. Any more than that would cause the tunnel to be jammed. Like that, they would not be able to display their advantage, and thus they could only surround it helplessly, not knowing what to do. As they were waiting, Yuzhong came to them, riding on Turtle's back. Yuzhong, you're here. The moment Dorothy saw him, her eyes lit up with joy, and she stepped forward and spoke warmly. Many of the other elders also looked at him with respect and a hint of envy. Many of the younger female warriors had seen how Yuzhong had single-handedly done so much during the battles earlier. If it was not for the current situation, they would have charged and thrown themselves on him. Due to his efforts to deal with the monitor lizards, the winged race had managed to extract themselves from the crisis and beat the Dino warriors back. Otherwise, they might have been wiped out. Even Dorothy, who was filled with hate and disgust for him initially, had a 180-degree change in attitude. Yuzhong assessed the tunnel carefully while asking with a frown, "What's the defense like inside?" Inside the city, there was only this tunnel. There were many heavy weapons inside that could be used to defend against enemies intending to assault the winged race. However, once it was captured and held by the enemy, it was likewise a blockage that sealed the people within. Dorothy spoke seriously with a slight bow. The defense is tight, with over 15 low-grade Dino-Generals inside. With them holding the fort, it's difficult to break through. We can only rely on you now. Please help our winged race. If you help us break out of here, our winged race would definitely not forget your mercy and grace. Since the Dino race had sealed the entrance, what the winged race needed was powerful weapons capable of smashing and destruction. In Yuzhong's arsenal, he had two powerful Type 4 mutant beasts that fit the bill, namely Lightning and Turtle. Lightning was swift as the wind. It could maneuver inside the cave with no problems, hunting the Dino warriors. As for Turtle, while its speed was slow, it was the one that could face the attacks head-on and crush the enemy with dominating strength. With these two massive beasts, combined with the elite warriors of the winged race, Dorothy had the confidence of breaking through. Otherwise, the only method left was to throw as many winged warriors as she could, costing them their lives. Yuzhong eyed the tunnel and spoke indifferently. 2,000 warriors. I can help your winged race get back this tunnel. But after this, I want 2,000 of your warriors to serve me. If you don't agree, then the deal is off. You could try and take back the tunnel by yourself. Hearing Yuzhong's appetite, one of the elders lost her cool. What? 2,000 warriors? Do you know that we only have a total of 6,000 warriors in our winged rage? You actually want 1/3 of our forces. That is impossible. Dorothy's face also fell as she stared fixedly at Yuzhong. Yuzhong, our winged race, and the Storm Valley have always been on good terms. Your actions now are simply robbing when the house is on fire. It's lowly and despicable. Yuzhong laughed coldly and swept a glance at them. Despicable? Just who was it that wanted to capture us, to present to the Stegosaurus kingdom? Wasn't the actions of your winged race despicable earlier? If it hadn't been for me, how many more of your people would have died? I've already extended my kindness and mercy. There doesn't seem to be anything that I owe to you people, right? I don't have the responsibility to fight so hard for you, nor risk my life for you. I've just brought up a deal. If you aren't willing, just forget about it. If you think that my actions are despicable, then Elder Dorothy, what would you make of your own actions? Hearing Yuzhong's cold sarcasm, many of the elders flushed with shame. Chapter 850, Assault. Chapter 850, Assault. Dorothy bowed and apologized. Yuzhong, I apologize deeply for my disrespect and arrogance earlier. Now, our fates are all entwined together. If our winged race is wiped out by the Stegosaurus kingdom, you guys will not survive as well. We should put aside our differences and dispute, work together, and fight our way out for survival. Yuzhong did not let up as he replied, icily, 2,000 winged warriors. Elder Dorothy, with my abilities, I might not be able to bring a dozen people out, but if Luo Ching and I were to join hands, we can definitely bring our own subordinates out alive. If you don't agree, then feel free to fight for the tunnel by yourselves. One pretty elder shot a glare at Yuzhong, barking out, "We'll just attack then. Damn Yuzhong, who do you think you are? Our winged race can take back our tunnel by ourselves. Sisters, come with me." After that, hundreds of elites charged up to the skies, dashing towards the entrance. Dorothy's face fell as she barked, "Lai Wei, no, come back." Just as the hundreds of elites flew up to the entrance, a number of arrows shot out like shooting stars, piercing many of them. With screams of pain and misery, many of them fell to the ground in pools of blood. The elder Lai Wei, whose strength was at the peak type 3 stage and was wearing the storm battle armor, immediately received medical care. She had 6 arrow wounds on her, causing fresh blood to flow out constantly. The Dino warriors were not stupid as well, prioritizing the winged race members who had the storm armor. With Lai Wei's death, the rest of the winged elites who had charged forth immediately retreated back in dismay. In a bid to break through this time, they had lost a number of winged elites, but not even a single Dino warrior had been killed. The only result was that they had cost the Dino warriors more arrows and stamina. Seeing this, the faces of the winged race fell, their brows furrowing together. The tunnel was securely guarded by those Dino warriors. If they continued to push forth like this, it would only be in vain. At the same time, they did not know what other means the Dino warriors possess. Dorothy's eyes flashed with a strange glint after some hesitation, before coming in front of Yuzhong in defeat, saying solemnly, "Yuzhong, please help us. As long as you get us out of this mess, we're willing to send you 1,000 winged elites." "Great Elder! Great Elder! No!" The other elders lost color in their expressions as they exclaimed out in horror. The winged race were not many, with only 6,000 elite warriors. With the invasion of the Dino people this time, they had lost over 1,000 warriors. If they were to give another 1,000 over to Yuzhong, their military might would be at an incredibly low point. Dorothy's face sunk as she barked out, "Shut up." The moment she lost her cool, all the elders kept quiet. Dorothy's position among them was very high, with her thoughts and actions constantly for the people. Many of the elders had received her grace before. Dorothy eyed them. "It is a critical time for our winged race now. If we can't get past this, then all 80,000 of our winged race would perish here. As long as Sir Yuzhong helps us, protecting the lives of these 80,000 brothers and sisters, then what's giving 1,000 of our soldiers to him? I believe that he would not mistreat them as well." Their technology was backward, and while their physique might be better than most humans, they still could not compare to the Dino warriors. Their only advantage was that they could fly. Now that they were stuck here, even if they gave their all and sacrificed the lives of thousands of people, they might not even be able to take back the tunnel. Dorothy saw this clearly. That was why she had no choice but to accept Yuzhong's deal. Yuzhong replied indifferently, 1,500. Dorothy's eyes flashed with a begging look, 1,200. "So Yuzhong, please, if you can accept this deal, you'll gain our friendship, and the 1,200 warriors will definitely be your most trusted and loyal subordinates." Yuzhong thought before nodding, "All right." Earning 1,200 powerful winged warriors was already a decent haul for Yuzhong. Although they might not be able to defeat even 200 Dino warriors on the battlefield, that was because they were by themselves, unable to utilize their advantages to the fullest. If given to Yuzhong, he could turn them all into powerful and lethal weapons. After all, he had many Sun battle armor, as well as Type 3 nuclei. If he gave them all the Sun battle armor, he could form a powerful aerial unit. Yuzhong then came up to Luo Qingqing. "Hey, I'll have to rely on your help later." Luo Qingqing was able to push her strength to the Type 5 realm with the help of the storm armor. Coupled with her natural combat talents, a low-grade Dino-General could easily perish at her hands. In terms of a frontal assault, Yuzhong needed such a force at the forefront. After all, he had to maintain his Type 4 strength. With just him alone, there was no certainty of breaking through the defenses of the Dino warriors. The tunnel was too small and narrow for the large mutant beasts. Therefore, he could not rely on Mount Tai. Right now, Luo Qingqing had already recovered fully with the help of the blood, ready to rejoin the battle. A crafty look flashed across her eyes as she smiled. No problem, but after this, I want half of those winged warriors. These winged elites were extremely useful to any faction. They were proficient scouts and could take on mutant beasts that had no aerial capabilities. Yu Zhong frowned and spoke softly. I had saved you so many times, how can you this? Luo Qingqing looked back at him and replied in a low voice. That's another matter. This was what you taught me. Since you saved me, I can ask for less. 300. Yu Zhong's face contorted as he bled in his heart. 200. That's the most. Otherwise, forget it. 200 winged elites, if they were trained properly, they could become an entire special force on their own. If he had to give them up to Luo Qingqing, he could not help but feel some pain. Luo Qingqing stared at Yu Zhong's expression in glee and spoke with a bright smile. Deal. Move out. The moment the deal was settled, Yu Zhong did not hesitate to gather the elites with Dorothy's help. Turtle stood at the center of the formation and began to launch an attack on the tunnel. Turtle had already channeled its innate ability right at the start, opening its huge mouth to breathe out powerful cold air. The cold air enveloped itself to form a huge, thick layer of ice. The layer of ice weighed at least hundreds of tons. If that weight was on lightning, it would crush it immediately. However, Turtle carried it and lumbered towards the entrance. Although the Type 4 crocodile snapping turtle was slow, its huge body possessed a frightening strength. Other than a few other Type 4 mutant beasts, its strength could be considered one of the top. When it appeared at the tunnel, countless arrows flew out once more, raining upon the layer of ice. However, these arrows only managed to pierce through 20 centimeters of the ice and could not penetrate further. The arrows fired by low-grade Dino-Generals were frightening, piercing through almost an entire meter before stopping. As the rain of arrows shot out from the tunnel, landing on Turtle's armor, in a short while, it caused Turtle's back to look like a porcupine. However, it continued on its way, bulldozing over anything in its path. Strong. This Type 4 mutant beast is truly the best suited at besieging defenses. Our winged race has hope. Dorothy and the other winged people saw how Turtle just braved all attacks as it advanced, their eyes filled with excitement. The rain of arrows that had cost them so much was being broken through easily, thus giving them hope. Damn it! Attack! Rout around that mutant beast. Kill those fellows. That mutant beast is slow. As long as we kill those behind it, we can kill it. As one low-grade Dino-General roared out in fury, 12 others, as well as 200 Dino warriors, leaped out from their covers, trying to run around Turtle. This time, on their attack on the Honeycomb City, they did not bring any heavy weapons. Therefore, they had no means of dealing with a moving fortress-like turtle. The only way of victory was to use their military might against Yu Zhong and the rest, before kiting and wearing Turtle down to death. Chapter 851, Victory. Chapter 851, Victory. They're coming. Yu Zhong saw the Dino warriors and readied his electromagnetic gun. A number of electromagnetic beams blasted out on the bodies of the Dino warriors, causing bloody holes. Dorothy, Doreen, Lai Wei, and a number of other winged elites wearing their storm battle armor readied their bows to fire at the Dino warriors. The strongest of the elite winged warriors had taken part in the assault this time, and each arrow shot out like a shooting star, penetrating the bodies of the Dino warriors in a shower of blood. In the tunnel, one particular arrow was fired at one low-grade Dino-General. The Dino-General reached out to swat the arrow aside, only to find that the force behind it exceeded its expectation. It penetrated through his right hand, going through his body, causing blood to spray everywhere. The face of the Dino-General fell as he sensed a bad premonition. Twisting his body slightly, he dodged to the left. At that moment, an arrow brushed past his body, penetrating deep into the wall behind him. The low-grade Dino-General had just evaded it when another arrow shot at him, penetrating his head, causing it to explode in a shower of blood. It's her. She has some capabilities. Yu Zhong turned to look at the source, noticing that it was the great Elder Dorothy. That low-grade Dino-General had been an expert of the Type 4 realm. In terms of close combat prowess, he was on par with Luo Qingqing without her storm armor. Such a fearsome expert was actually killed by Dorothy, a testimony to her powerful archery. Under their constant assault, the Dino warriors were being killed one by one. However, their speed was pretty fast. In a breath's time, they managed to charge up to Turtle. Facing the Dino warriors that suddenly appeared, Turtle slammed and ate of them viciously, causing them to be crushed into meat paste, as though they had been struck by a sports car at maximum speed. However, that was the best Turtle could do. The rest of the Dino warriors managed to get past it by its sides, launching a fierce assault on Yu Zhong's team. Kill! Luo Qingqing's battle lust was at its peak as she stood there in her armor and wielding her spear. Her body was surrounded by countless tornadoes, and as she tapped her foot, her entire body shot forwards. She appeared in front of a low-grade Dino-General and immediately thrust her spear through his heart. The low-grade Dino-General's face fell as he retreated explosively, raising his hands in an effort to block. However, he had just raised his hands when the terrifying spear already pierced through, and numerous wind blades exploded out from within, tearing his corpse up into slices. Having killed one low-grade Dino-General in a single blow, Luo Qingqing's eyes flashed coldly, and she suddenly disappeared from her location, before appearing in front of another low-grade Dino-General to thrust out her spear in a split second. The eyes of the low-grade Dino-General gleamed as he swung his tail noiselessly at her. He raised his right elbow as well, the bone blade on it slicing towards Luo Qingqing. When the right elbow bone blade slammed into Luo Qingqing's battle spear, there was a flicker of a shadow, and the battle spear suddenly appeared right in front of the face of the Dino-General. It pierced through his head easily, and with the wind blades billowing out, it shredded his entire head. After killing two low-grade Dino-Generals in quick succession, Luo Qingqing continued to charge through the enemies, every strike of hers easily felling a low-grade Dino-General. Strong. Seems like she has become stronger again. Yu Zhong watched as Luo Qingqing tore through the battlefield as though she was slaughtering chickens, and sighed. This woman was truly majestic and valiant, her prowess constantly growing at every step of the battlefield. After all, these Dino-Generals did not lack combat experience. Although they were only at peak Type 4, in terms of close combat, most Type 5 divine warriors of other races might not be able to best them. Such freaks were actually annihilated one after another by Luo Qingqing. Even if the storm battle armor did boost her strength, without her skills, it would not have been possible. Luo Qingqing continued to unleash carnage on the low-grade Dino-Generals, while the other Dino warriors were being handled by Dorothy and her winged elites. The winged race could not compare to the Dino warriors in terms of close combat. As the Dino warriors got past Turtle, they quickly assaulted the winged warriors, killing many of them. One particular winged elite thrust her battle spear towards an incoming Dino warrior. The eyes of the Dino warrior flashed, and with a twist of his body, the spear penetrated his left chest. At that moment, his gaze seemed to turn savage, and his right elbow slashed out with lightning speed. A cold light brushed past the neck of the winged elite, and her head was sent flying amidst a shower of blood. A dozen of the elite warriors was equipped with the storm battle armor. In theory, their strength should be higher than those Dino warriors with the enhancement. However, in close combat, the Dino warriors were unafraid of death and were able to tear apart these winged elites. Dorothy, Lai Wei, and a few other elders began to increase their intensity, forcefully balancing the tides of the battle. Yu Zhong was on top of Turtle, observing the ongoings below. He noticed that there were two main battlefields, the elites of the winged race clashing with the Dino warriors, of which the Dino warriors had the advantage. The other was Luo Qingqing's slaughter of the low-grade Dino-Generals, rapidly decreasing their numbers. If things continued on like this, after Luo Qingqing was done with the low-grade Dino-Generals, it would definitely be the winged race's victory. The low-grade Dino-Generals seemed to know this point, and they gathered close together. However, when they got close to Luo Qingqing, Yuzhong would use his electromagnetic gun to shoot at them, forcing them apart. Although he could not easily kill them with his gun at his current strength, with his firearms manipulation, his accuracy was more than enough to force them to retreat. Just as they were gaining the advantage in battle, 300 Dino warriors suddenly charged in once more through the tunnel. If these 300 joined the fray, they would be able to turn the tide. From behind, Lai Wei let out a shrill howl, and more winged elites flew out from behind her, entering the fray as well. Burn! Yuzhong saw the incoming 300 Dino warriors, and his eyes flashed coldly. Waving his hands, a powerful devil flame tornado blew out towards them. Within that small confined space, the billowing devil flames instantly enveloped a large portion of the tunnel. The 300 Dino warriors were caught in the flames, and instantly, every single one of them started to burn. They screamed out in pain. Many of them turned to ashes within a breath. In the end, a mere 140 managed to survive. Such a casualty rate would have caused a human troop to collapse. However, those remaining Dino warriors still continued to charge forth with renewed ferocity. Yuzhong kept his eye on them and fired with his electromagnetic gun, the beams shooting through the heads of the Dino warriors, causing them to explode. Within a few breaths, over 30 more Dino warriors had been killed by Yuzhong. However, by then, the remaining 100 had made it around Turtle. Alas, they were too late, as the low-grade Dino-Generals had already fallen at Luo Qingqing's spear. The Dino warriors had just appeared and were immediately swept up in Luo Qingqing's rampage, their screams filling the cavern. At the same time, Turtle continued on its steadfast march forward, crushing any unfortunate Dino warriors still hiding behind cover. Retreat. One low-grade Dino-General looked out at the battlefield, knowing that there was no hope of victory, and roared out in anger and hatred before turning around to flee. The Dino warriors quickly fled out from the tunnel. Another group of Dino warriors was trying to take Turtle down under the lead of one low-grade Dino-General, firing with all they had, but to no avail. Turtle was like a moving fortress that crushed any obstacles along the way, while Luo Qingqing and the other winged elites would catch and finish off any stragglers. Chapter 852, Alliance. Chapter 852, Alliance. Those Dino warriors left behind continued to fight with all they had. However, they were still annihilated by the sheer might of Yuzhong's group. The tunnel was thus reclaimed after a long, arduous battle. After regaining the tunnel, the winged elites began to swiftly fly out. Outside, all over the cliff, Dino warriors were retreating and fleeing. The winged elites continued to fire arrows at the retreating Dino warriors, causing some of them to fall off and plunge to their deaths. At this time, the Dino warriors were caught in a disadvantageous position. Their bodies were crawling down the cliff, and it was hard to maneuver. Faced with the rain of arrows, they could not defend themselves. Every winged elite was filled with hatred towards these Dino warriors. Under their frenzied assault, the 600 Dino people were shot down. At the center of the honeycomb city, Lai Wei descended from the sky, her entire body covered in blood. She came up to Shailene and reported, "Your Majesty, we have killed all the Dino people." Shailene's face was filled with joy, and she flapped her wings and announced in her melodious voice, "Everybody, after the efforts of our warriors, the invaders have been wiped out." Shailene had an interesting ability, which was that her voice could travel throughout the winged race, and hearing her words, those who were hiding in various corners felt relieved. "That's great. Those monsters are finally dead. Long live your majesty! Long live your majesty! Long live your majesty! A number of winged citizens began to erupt in cheers and celebration, and at this moment, everyone was filled with respect for their queen. The fact that Shailene could become queen was also largely due to this innate ability. Only those with the queen bloodline had this ability to bolster morale and appease hearts. Thank goodness, we've won. Shailene looked down at the celebrating citizens, her heart filled with part joy, part trepidation. This time, the attack of the Stegosaurus kingdom had been sudden, and the entire city had almost been destroyed. If it were not for Yu Zhong and Luo Qingqing, this place would have been a field of corpses. Shailene's heart trembled slightly as she sighed. What a pity! Our winged race is still too weak. There were only 80,000 of them, and the entire base could not compare to the Dino race. They did not even have a single Type 5 Divine Warrior. This time, there had been at most 2,000 Dino warriors in the invading party. And yet, they had almost succeeded in wiping out the winged race. They were still a weak species of this world, after all. If only Yu Zhong was part of our winged race. Suddenly, Shailene had such a thought, thinking about his combat prowess. Even her blood started to pump faster. Inside a lavish palace, the entire upper echelon of the winged race was gathered. The atmosphere was vastly different from when Yu Zhong and the rest first arrived. Many of the winged race members were looking at Yu Zhong with fervent gazes, their hearts fluttering. In this world where the strong lorded over the weak, powerful people captured hearts easily. In this weak winged race where the females were more than the males, they were easily stirred. Copulating with strong people usually ensured better genes in their offspring. This was what caused them to have a desire towards Yu Zhong, eyeing him like a bunch of perverts towards an absolute beauty. Yu Zhong did not hold back and requested his reward from Dorothy. Elder Dorothy, when will you give me the 1,200 winged elites? Dorothy looked at him and replied respectfully, Sir Yu Zhong, I will get them ready by tomorrow. To her, this man, who had Greenie, Lightning, and Turtle, all Type 4 mutant beasts, was more frightening than Luo Qingqing. Both Greenie and Lightning could hunt and kill Type 5 divine warriors, while Turtle was the best siege weapon. With his ability to summon them, Yu Zhong was practically a mobile army himself. Therefore, her attitude towards him was even more respectful than her own queen. Having obtained what he wanted, Yu Zhong nodded his head with satisfaction. Good. Dorothy then asked with a strange glint, Sir Yu Zhong, are you going to be staying a few more days and allow us to host you? Yu Zhong immediately rejected. No, I'll be leaving tomorrow. The Stegosaurus kingdom knows about this place, and it's no longer safe to stay here. I intend to bring my people to Cloud Region, and we can't afford to waste even a single day. This time, the victory of the Stegosaurus army sent to the winged race was a close shave. Fortunately, they only had a mid-grade Dino-General in their midst. Had there been 2 or even 3, Yu Zhong would have long since been killed. Even if he evolved to the Type 5 stage and relied on the enhancement of the light gold sun armor, there was no guarantee that he could kill one in close combat. Dorothy revealed a thoughtful expression, Cloud Region. Doreen came up to Luo Qingqing, bowing deeply as she spoke with sincerity. Storm Queen, please forgive our travesty earlier. I'd like to apologize for our earlier foolishness. Hai Shi, who was standing beside Luo Qingqing, had a look of disdain as she spoke sharply. Just a sentence, and you want us to forget everything? Remember, you guys were about to abduct our queen to hand her over to the Stegosaurus kingdom. Do you think an apology would cut it? Hearing that, many of the winged race elites had looks of embarrassment and shame. They had indeed gone overboard. Now that they were being mocked and ridiculed, they had no words. Luo Qingqing frowned slightly and barked, Hai Shi, enough. Hai Shi then kept quiet, although her expression was one of unwillingness. Luo Qingqing turned to Doreen and said, Let's forget about all these ugliness between us. I hope that there will never be a second time. After all, The winged queen Shailene was Luo Qing's good friend. In the past, the winged race did assist Storm Valley on multiple occasions as well. Thus, she was not willing to break this alliance apart and push them towards the enemy. Doreen bowed once more in gratitude. "Thank you for your magnanimity," after which Doreen returned to her position. Dorothy suddenly spoke. "Yu Zhong, our winged race would like to become your ally. What do you think?" Yu Zhong touched his chin and fell into thought when he heard that alliance. Dorothy's eyes flashed with a strange glint. "Our winged elites are the best scouts. With your strength, if we were to become allies, we definitely can become a powerful force and join forces to resist the Stegosaurus kingdom." Yu Zhong pondered for a while before shaking his head to turn her down. "I'm heading to Cloud Region. While you guys want to stay here in Green Region, there's no point in the alliance." Dorothy immediately replied with resolution. "Yu Zhong, if we were to become allies, our winged race is willing to follow you to the Cloud Region." Great Elder, you must reconsider. We're not familiar with Cloud Region at all. If we were to go there, we could be slaughtered." "That's right. Great Elder, we had better stay here in Green Region. This time, all the Dino warriors who had invaded have been killed. There's no one else who knows about our location. Even if we abandon this mountain cave, we can find another place to reside." The various elders started to speak up in order to dissuade her. The winged race had spent countless years in Green Region. Their home, they knew where to hunt and where was safe. Their ancestors had paid the price to obtain intelligence and information accumulated throughout the years. If they were to leave Green Region, there were ferocious beasts and mutant beasts everywhere who knew how long it would take for them to re-establish their roots again. Dorothy eyed Yu Zhong and spoke solemnly. "Enough. Green Region is no longer safe. We have to leave here now. Sir Yu Zhong, are you willing to be our ally?" Yu Zhong smiled lightly. "Sure. If you come with us to Cloud Region, we can be allies." Although the winged race was not strong compared to the Stegosaurus kingdom, they were more than enough compared to his own human troops. With such an ally, it would alleviate many things. Dorothy heaved a sigh of relief and smiled lightly. "Many thanks, Yu Zhong." Luo Qing shot Yu Zhong a glare, as she thought hatefully, "This fellow is getting all the benefits." This time, Luo Qing had come in order to bring their ally, the winged race, away from Green Region. Who would have expected for things to turn out like this, and the winged race actually becoming Yu Zhong's ally? If it wasn't for her bargaining for 200 winged elites from Yu Zhong, this trip would have been a useless one. After confirming the details, the palace threw a large banquet in order to celebrate. Yu Zhong partook and enjoyed himself with the food provided, before heading back to his room to rest. It had been an intense day, and he was extremely exhausted. Chapter 853. Entering the Type 5 Realm. Chapter 853. Entering the Type 5 Realm. As Yu Zhong fell into deep sleep, the light gold energy in his body continued to course through his body, strengthening and enhancing every single cell and fiber. His entire being was undergoing a huge change, evolving towards a superhuman level. The God and Devil imprint could absorb the purest of life force. Along his journey, Yu Zhong had killed plenty of experts and powerful Type 4 mutant beasts, the amount which could have easily pushed an ordinary person to become a Type 5 divine warrior long ago. However, Yu Zhong had been stuck at the pinnacle of the Type 4 realm, because the God-Devil nucleus had only been absorbing the concentrated and purest form of energy, refining it constantly to lay the most solid of foundations. If the foundation was not stable enough, it would be hard for a human like Yu Zhong to advance far. They had physique and constitution limitations in comparison with the Dino people, the Sea Clan, the Flesh Eaters, even zombies and other evolved life forms. Therefore, having absorbed enough life force, Yu Zhong was finally evolving towards the next stage. The light gold energy continued to flow slowly throughout Yu Zhong's body, going through multiple cycles, strengthening every single fiber of Yu Zhong's body. Even his red blood was starting to have a tinge of gold energy. Every high-rank expert had a powerful life force. As Yu Zhong entered the Type 5 realm, his blood was refined to harbor a strong vitality within. If an ordinary person was to drink his blood, they would gain enhancements and even gain an immunity to some viruses. Congratulations on evolving to a Type 5 Divine Warrior. You have gained plus 30 in all attributes. Congratulations on evolving to a Type 5 Divine Warrior. Your body of steel has been raised to the 3rd order. Congratulations on evolving to a Type 5 Divine Warrior. Your regeneration has been raised to the 3rd order. Congratulations on evolving to a Type 5 Divine Warrior. Your Devil Flames has been raised to the 4th order. Congratulations on evolving to a Type 5 Divine Warrior. Your Dark Do Chi has been raised to the 4th order. When Yu Zhong woke up, he was bombarded by a flurry of notifications within his mind. All his skills had been raised to at least the 3rd order. As for his Devil Flame and Dark Do Chi, his 2 main skills, they had reached the 4th order, causing his strength to undergo a heaven and earth transformation. Yu Zhong checked out his status and was filled with excitement. Holy! This is great. Who would have thought that I would become so strong after becoming a Type 5 Divine Warrior? After evolving to the Type 5 realm, Yu Zhong's largest gain was not the plus 30 in his attributes, but his skills reaching the 3rd order stage. After all, every single skill required many skill points just to power up. Skill points were precious, and if it was on Earth, it would take every increase of 10 levels to gain 1 skill point. Instead, he had gained a massive upgrade together with his evolution. The skill points he would have required otherwise would be at least hundreds. Based on his conjecture, his current strength would surpass even Luo Qingqing with her Type 4 Nucleus Storm battle armor. This was before the use of external equipment. If he were to equip the Type 5 Nucleus Sun battle armor, he had the confidence to take on mid-grade Dino-Generals in combat. After celebrating for a while, he got up and left the room. When Yu Zhong entered the hall, the upper echelon of the winged race, including the great Elder Dorothy, got up to greet him. Sir Yu Zhong, good morning. Dorothy had just approached him when her face suddenly changed, and she wore a look of disbelief as she stammered, "Ah, you seem different. Don't tell me. You've reached the Type 5 Divine Warrior realm?" In the past, the winged race also had a Type 5 Divine Warrior before. The previous Winged Queen had been a Type 5 Divine Warrior. Dorothy's perception was strong, and since her experience was abundant as well, she could tell that Yu Zhong possessed an even stronger aura than the previous queen. This was obviously a sign of his evolution. Type 5 Divine Warrior. How is that possible? How could a human become a Type 5 Divine Warrior? Type 5 Divine Warrior? Is that a joke? Even Luo Qingqing has not even reached it yet. He has already broken through. Does it mean his talent is even more fearsome than Luo Qingqing? Hearing Dorothy's words, many of the elders had changes in expressions, their eyes filled with disbelief as they began to discuss among themselves. The Type 5 Divine Warrior was a huge watershed in this 3rd world where powerful existences were numerous and mutant beasts and life forms were rampant. Even a Type 4 Divine Warrior would be in constant peril everywhere they went. Only those of Type 5 and above could walk around fearlessly. In this world, a Type 4 expert was considered a peak existence among the winged race and Storm Valley. However, in the Sea Clan and the Stegosaurus Kingdom, they were just ordinary fighters. Instead, the Type 5 Divine Warriors were considered the revered ones. Humans were generally considered the weaker species, and they had little experts. One of the few top fighters in the Green region would be Storm Queen Luo Qingqing, but even she was just a peak Type 4 expert. Hai Shi, who was standing beside Luo Qingqing, lost her cool and exclaimed, "Impossible! He's just a mere man. How can he evolve so fast? Impossible!" Hai Shi had always regarded Luo Qingqing as her idol and revered her. She believed that among humans, Luo Qing was the most talented and the one who was the most likely to break through the Type 5 realm. In truth, her thinking was not wrong. If it were not for the God and Devil imprint, Yu Zhong's natural talent could not possibly surpass Luo Qing, regardless of how hard-working he was. However, with the imprint and the constant absorption of life force, Yu Zhong's body was remodeled from the cellular level, and he had already evolved. Gazes fell on him, many of them hoping to hear his denial because they were all jealous as well. Luo Qing also looked at him, her gaze complicated. Although she was largely aloof, even she felt a tinge of envy at Yu Zhong's breakthrough. However, there was also a slight sense of joy that she did not understand. Only Han Zixian looked at him with a pure and hopeful look, praying that it was the case. Yu Zhong laughed lightly. That's right. I've just broken through, and am a Type 5 Divine Warrior. Dorothy's gaze was complicated as well. Try her best to maintain a smile. As expected. Congratulations. Haishi immediately challenged him as she could not help herself. I don't believe it. Yu Zhong, I want to take you on. As long as you can beat me, I'll believe that you're a Type 5 Divine Warrior. Yu Zhong glanced at her and went to his table to sit while replying indifferently. Why should I? If you want to challenge me, take on Han Zixian first. Han Zixian stepped forward, her face apologetic. I'm sorry, Haishi. I'm already Sir Yu Zhong's subordinate. Although Han Zixian was not willing to raise her weapon against her friend, if it were just a spar, she would still take it on. Haishi shot Han Zixian a look as she gritted her teeth and spoke. Yu Zhong, I want to challenge you. If you can beat me, I will sleep with you for one night, or obey a single order of yours. If you lose, you have to tell everywhere that you're a boasting liar. Luo Qing frowned and said, Haishi, you're not his match. Haishi was only at the peak of Type 3. With the enhancement of her armor, she could at most reach the mid-Type 4 realm, which was vastly far from Yu Zhong. Haishi replied resolutely, Your Majesty, please grant me this selfish desire. Yu Zhong thought for a while and wanted to test out his new strength. A single order? Sounds good. Fine, I agree. Haishi immediately followed with her storm armor activated and continued. I have additional conditions. First, you cannot rely on equipment. Second, I'm going to use the storm armor and storm battle spear. Third, you must defeat me in 5 moves. As a Type 5 Divine Warrior, those conditions should be easy to meet. Yu Zhong shook his head. Nope. Haishi was stunned. She had thought her conditions were fair, but did not expect Yu Zhong to reject her. What? Yu Zhong responded mildly. 2 moves? If I can't defeat you in 2 moves, I'll consider it my loss. Arrogant. You're digging your own grave. Haishi lost her temper, and her storm armor radiated, enhancing her strength to the mid-Type 4 realm. Her eyes flashed with anger, and she suddenly disappeared from her location, appearing behind Yu Zhong silently, sending a powerful spear thrust towards him. Although Haishi was a Type 3 Divine Warrior, she had a natural talent and spatial abilities. At the Type 4 realm, she could utilize her ability to appear anywhere within an area of 100 SQM up to 20 times. Relying on such an ability, she had killed a low-grade Dino-General of her own before. Chapter 854 Shock. Chapter 854 Shock. Spatial ability. What a good ability. No wonder you have the confidence to challenge me. However, your speed is too slow. After evolving to a Type 5 Divine Warrior, Yu Zhong's perception was much stronger. Haishi had just appeared behind him when he reached out with his hands to grab, clutching her skull with lightning speed as he turned and chuckled, You've lost. Haishi could feel his huge hand, warm and powerful, and gritted her teeth to admit, I've lost. Although Haishi was a proud woman, she was not stubborn. She knew well that had this been a true life-and-death battle, with Yu Zhong's strength, he would have been able to kill her in one strike. Yu Zhong's response far surpassed low-grade Dino-Generals, Even the powerful Luo Qing in her heart would not be able to react similarly without her equipment. Type 5. He really reached that stage. Strong. He's truly strong. The various elders, upper echelon, and elites watched how easily Yu Zhong stopped Haishi's attack. Their eyes flashed with shock, finally accepting that Yu Zhong was a Type 5 divine warrior. In this world, a peak-level expert would possess powerful strength. Every leader needed strength as well. With Yu Zhong's Type 5 divine warrior strength, he could easily go to any small clan or faction and become their guardian. Together with the tamed mutant beast that he could summon, his collective strength was astonishing. Powerful. I'm no longer a match for him. Luo Qing clenched her fist, her jaw tight, and there was a hint of the desire to battle. Not long ago, without any equipment, Luo Qing was stronger than him. However, if they were to take on each other now, Luo Qing would definitely lose. This fact caused her to feel slightly lost. At the same time, she felt a need to fight to become better. Lai Wei's mother looked at Yu Zhong with a strange glint, smiling warmly. Lai Wei, I really like this Yu Zhong. How about giving him to me? I'll replace you as his servant. Since the winged race was a matriarchal society, their exchanges were more brazen. Also, their women outnumbered their men. Thus, there was no moral or civic education in the sense that humans comprehended. They were even more backward than some ancient civilizations. It was common for mothers and daughters to share men. Lai Wei was fully attracted to Yu Zhong, her eyes flashing brightly as she rejected, "No way. He's mine. Haishi, I'm warning you. Don't think of taking my man. Otherwise, I will fall out with you." Haishi stuck out her impressive chest and displayed her charms and allure while smiling. "I intend to do just that. I won't let go of such a man. I will use my womanly charms to keep him around my fingers. At that time, I will be magnanimous to share him with you." Lai Wei snorted coldly, but there was a slight discomfort in her expression. "Humph. I won't let you get your way." In terms of strength, it was naturally Lai Wei whose talents surpassed Haishi. However, in terms of charms, Haishi was definitely the victor. Many more winged women began to throw their undisguised, lustful gazes towards him as though he was a delicious piece of cake. Yu Zhong did not expect that he had somehow become the Prince Charming of these many youthful women. It was not a common sight on Earth, after all. Yu Zhong had made use of his authority and power to obtain the women around him. He might have them with him, but he had never truly won over their hearts. As for now, he just had to hook his finger, and he could gain so many top beauties of the winged race. However, he did not have the ability to read minds. Thus, he did not know he already held such allure over these women. After breakfast, the winged race quickly moved out. Having to relocate 80,000 members was no easy feat. They needed resources and time. Dorothy came up to Yu Zhong with an apologetic face. "Yu Zhong, where are we gathering? If the journey is over 1,000 kilometers, we would need at least 3 days to prepare. According to the distance, the required resources would be different. If they had to move further, then the things they had to bring would be adjusted accordingly, increasing the preparation time." Yu Zhong shook his head. "1 day, that's all I'm giving you." Dorothy lost color as she exclaimed, "That's impossible. Yu Zhong, 1 day will only allow us to pack some simple things. We would not possibly survive out in the wild for long like that." The ordinary warriors of the winged race could fly over 50 li in 1 day, while the Type 2 warriors could fly 100 li. Type 3 winged elites could do a 200 to 300 li journey, while a Type 4 expert could fly over 700 li in one go. However, there were children and the elderly to take care of as well. They would have to travel on foot after a few kilometers of flight. In the various forests with multiple mutant beasts, the journey would be treacherous. Without ample preparations, they could easily lose over thousands of their people. If their luck was bad, it would not be a stretch to lose tens of thousands. Because of this, the winged race was not willing to travel far on foot. It was because of this same reason that the Storm Valley wanted to follow Yu Zhong on the Storm battleship to the Cloud region. unless the Stegosaurus kingdom made use of their Type 5 mutant beasts to crush everything in their path. That would allow for travel through the forests. Of course, that would require the Stegosaurus kingdom to pay a huge price as well. At that time, when it tried to invade the Green region, many mid-grade Dino-Generals worked together to kill the powerful mutant beasts along the way. That was why the number that came to Storm Valley was low. Had all of them joined in, Storm Valley would have fallen in a day. If it were a long journey, then yes, naturally you will need more resources. However, it's only a short distance. Don't bring too many unnecessary things. Come with me. They should be here already. Yu Zhong glanced at the communication device in his hands and walked out. Dorothy and a few winged elders followed behind him. When they came to the entrance of the cavern, they saw a huge floating fortress flying towards them from a distance. Dorothy stared at the storm battleship and went wide-eyed with astonishment, exclaiming, "That's the Storm Imperial City. Oh Lord, I'm not seeing things, am I? It can actually fly? It's actually flying." Doreen was also shocked. The Storm Imperial City. How is it moving? All the elders were taken aback, as the sight was overbearing. Based on their knowledge, the floating Storm Imperial City that had been stationary within the Storm Valley had always been a mythical castle meant for residents. Having been there before, they knew that the Storm Imperial City was likely a war weapon manufactured by humans of eons ago. Although Storm Valley had its own design built around it, there had been no way to move the Storm Imperial City. Had they known that the Storm battleship could be piloted, they would not have tried to capture Luo Qing in exchange for peace. With a chuckle, Yu Zhong replied, "This Storm battleship now belongs to me. It will allow us to go to the Cloud region. I think a day would be enough for your winged race to be relocated up into the battleship." The moment Yu Zhong decided to ally with the winged race, he had made use of his communication device to command the Storm battleship to fly over. He was clear that in this world, without such a tool, it would be hard to migrate on a large scale. Dorothy had a newfound look of respect. "Enough. Enough. Sir Yu Zhong, allying with you was the best thing to happen to our winged race. You're truly a man of many surprises." When the various elders heard that the Storm battleship now belonged to Yu Zhong, all traces of their discontent and dissatisfaction disappeared entirely, leaving only respect behind. At the same time, many rejoiced their decision to ally with Yu Zhong. Dorothy's authority had suffered slightly due to the mistreatment of Luo Qing and her party. Their backs were carrying at least tens of kilos, their backs drenched with perspiration and their breaths ragged. Yet, even after running over 5 kilometers, none of them complained of exhaustion or wanted to drop out. Because, in front of them, Han Xiong was carrying even more than a few times their weight and running ahead. Yu Zhong stood quietly to one side as he watched them train. He had a large amount of Type 5 mutant beast meat. With the abundant life force within, it would provide adequate nutrients. After training arduously, these soldiers would then eat the Type 5 mutant beast meat to replenish their energy and boost their constitution. Undergoing such a regime, with the help of the Type 5 mutant beast meat, over 3 humans had awakened to become evolvers. The physiques of the rest of the soldiers were also improving at a rapid pace, evolving towards elite forces. Chapter 855, Mutant Green Gulls Flock. Chapter 855, Mutant Green Gulls Flock. On the way towards Cloud Region, Yu Zhong poured a huge amount of resources towards those soldiers who had stood loyally by his side, strengthening them. Every single day, the soldiers would be pushed to their very limit before enjoying some Type 5 mutant beast meat and blood-sucking bees, allowing their cells and bodies to evolve. A powerful troop was starting to take form under Yu Zhong's training regime. Although Yu Zhong had reached the Type 5 realm, his strength able to crush a small troop, he was clear that a single person could not grow an entire faction alone no matter how strong. And, while Type 5 experts were powerful, the weaker ones might make use of various methods to deal with enemies stronger than them. Yu Zhong watched as his subordinates become stronger day by day, his heart filled with hope towards their growth and future. Their physiques surpassed those humans on Earth. Once they went through training with the nourishment of the type 5 mutant beast meat and blood-sucking bees, they would become powerful elites back on Earth. Luo Qing came up to Yu Zhong, looking at the training soldiers and sighed. This training method is indeed decent. One can easily raise an elite unit like this. Yu Zhong, can you train our Storm Valley forces as well? The training methods of Storm Valley was backward, and while every female warrior possessed combat strength, in terms of discipline and order, they could not compare to Yu Zhong's forces, with the exception of those under Luo Qing's direct command. No problem, Yu Zhong replied with an easygoing attitude. No one knew the situation over at Cloud Region. Yu Zhong, the Storm Warriors, and even the Winged Race were packed together, hoping to deal with the unknown dangers together. If the Storm Valley strength could increase, it would bode well for the Alliance. All of a sudden, 12 Winged Race warriors in the skies screamed out, "Not good! There's a flock of mutant green gulls right ahead." Yu Zhong's face fell as he ordered, "Mutant green gulls? Sound the alarm quickly." A blaring alarm rang throughout the entire Storm battleship, and the expressions of all those civilians who were involved in shopping and having fun, and the soldiers in the middle of training turned. They were soon escorted by the various officers stationed to hide within the nearest covers. Not long after, a large green cloud appeared on the horizon. It was comprised of various 6M or 7M long, green-colored seagulls. The majority of these green gulls were Type 2 mutant beasts. However, in a flock with their massive numbers, even a Type 4 mutant beast will be consumed alive. At the same time, they were incredibly aggressive, attacking anything on sight. Many winged elites had fallen to these mutant birds before. One of the elders looked up at the dense flock of green gulls, her eyes flashing with horror. "It's over. It's a large flock of them." Hearing her words, many of the warriors had looks of horror while their eyes flashed with despair. According to the classification of the winged race, the size of the flock was categorized as small, medium, and large. Small flocks contained roughly 1,000 birds. Medium flocks numbered tens of thousands, while large numbered above 100,000. A flock of 100,000 mutant green gulls was practically invincible. They were able to consume an aerial Type 4 mutant beast. Even a Type 5 mutant beast might not necessarily be able to escape them. In this cruel third world, the threat level of the skies was slightly lesser than land. Even with the Storm battleship, a long journey was not without risks. Eyeing the birds, many human warriors also had expressions of fear, their hands trembling. Yu Zhong glanced at the flock, his face impassive as he ordered calmly, "Fire!" With Yu Zhong's order, the human soldiers inside the castle began to fire their weapons, as multiple electromagnetic beams shot towards the skies, blasting at the flock of green gulls. Yu Zhong had obtained a large number of electromagnetic guns and cannons that required mutant beast nuclei to operate. There were a total of over 3,000 weapons. When they were all fired, many of the mutant green gulls were instantly pulverized. The bodies of the green gulls burst apart in showers of blood and flesh, as their corpses plunged towards the ground like raindrops. Dorothy and the winged race watched in amazement, strong. Many of their warriors had viewed the subordinates of Yu Zhong with contempt, mainly due to themselves having superior physiques. They assumed that Yu Zhong's soldiers were useless, but now they were filled with shock. With the electromagnetic weapons, the human warriors were able to exhibit destructive, might not lose out the winged race. Furthermore, they had the advantage of range, and the beams were more powerful. Even for someone like Lai Wei, her bow and arrows might not compare to the burst damage of an electromagnetic beam. Dorothy looked at Yu Zhong, who stood calmly as he commandeered his fleet, her eyes flashing with surprise. Humans truly cannot be underestimated. He actually managed to train up such a powerful unit. Although the speed of those mutant green gulls was not as fast as the sound barrier, they were still considered fast. After losing about thousands of their numbers, the entire flock was within a 100-meter range. The winged queen stood at the forefront, decked in her storm battle armor, as she barked out, "Fire!" At the sound of her command, the various winged warriors readied their bows and fired a salvo of arrows upon the approaching birds. Storm Queen Luo Qing also gave a similar command to her own troops, "Fire!" The rain of arrows shot out and fell upon the flock of mutant green gulls. Many of the birds were shot at, and their bodies landed on the deck of the storm battleship. As for many others, while their wings or any other areas were penetrated, they did not die immediately, instead, struggling painfully, knocking various trees and structures. The rest of the flock immediately swooped down with frightening intensity. At the various archer towers set up by the winged race, many of the green gulls went to attack them first. One winged elite only had time to fire out an arrow before she saw a large bird claw grabbing onto her head. The claw clenched tightly with force, bursting her head wide open. 6 or 7 of these beasts also surrounded the corpse and began to consume it, finishing it entirely within a few breaths. Many others slammed into the various dilapidated buildings. The flock of mutant green gulls crawled all over the deck of the storm battleship, destroying a number of watchtowers. The various Type 4 experts of the winged race began to move out in groups, attacking the flock of mutant green gulls. Similarly, Luo Qing led her subordinates to abandon the outer watchtowers, withdrawing into a defensive line, engaging the mutant green gulls in combat. After they had settled into a formation, the green gulls could not rely on their advantage in numbers. Instead, only a few of them could manage to reach the humans. Therefore, the human casualties decreased sharply. On the storm battleship, there were over 3,000 pillboxes, each of them filled with human warriors wielding electromagnetic weapons. The soldiers never stopped their assault, and the multiple laser beams fired out constantly, injuring and killing many of the green gulls. The mutant green gulls continued to pounce and slam into the pillboxes, injuring themselves in the process. However, they did no harm to the humans within those steel structures. Their bodies were too large as well, so they could not fit in. Their strength was not enough to destroy those pillboxes as well. A large number of them slammed into the pillboxes, denting the external structures, but were killed by the human soldiers within. At this moment, a huge flame tornado charged towards the skies from a certain tunnel, enveloping a large number of them. As the green gulls were consumed by the devil flame, they were incinerated instantly. Yu Zhong walked out from the tunnel, his thoughts whirring, and a huge void appeared as Turtle walked out. When the green gulls saw Yu Zhong and Turtle, they became excited, charging towards Turtle. Turtle crawled forward a few steps before it retracted its limbs into its shell, leaving only the turtle head. The flock of mutant green gulls swooped down onto its shell, only leaving behind scratches and claw marks, but not truly harming Turtle. The moment Turtle attracted a large number of them, it opened its mouth to spit out a thick amount of frost, turning the mutant green gulls into popsicles. Chapter 856, Dominating the Green Gulls. Chapter 856, Dominating the Green Gulls. On the other side, Yu Zhong activated his gravity manipulation with a glint in his eyes. A powerful gravitational force spread out, since the gravitational manipulation ability had reached the third order stage. It could affect his enemies with a maximum 30 times weight. These mutant green gulls were not strength-based mutant beasts. Thus, when they were enveloped by the 24 times weight that Yu Zhong sent out and plummeted to the deck, unable to move. Countless mutant green gulls flew over to Yu Zhong and instantly plunged down due to the gravity field around him. The mountain of birds grew larger and larger. With a thought, Yu Zhong sent out a billowing devil flame, lighting up the hill of green gulls. They began to shriek out in agony, their life force entering Yu Zhong in droves. Yu Zhong walked out in big strides amidst the flock of mutant green gulls, causing them to pounce towards him like bees to honey. His surroundings fluctuated constantly with the gravitational manipulation, sucking the mutant green gulls down towards him, before he sent out devil flames to burn them all into ashes, leaving behind numerous Type 2 nuclei. After evolving to the Type 5 Divine Warrior realm, Yu Zhong's strength had grown to a whole new level. If it were in the past, he would not have dared walk through the seemingly endless flock of mutant green gulls. However, with his improved third-order gravity manipulation, as well as his fourth-order divine flame, thus easily obliterating these mutant green gulls. On the other side, Turtle continued to spit out huge amounts of freezing air towards the skies. Everywhere the freezing field touched, the mutant green gulls froze into popsicles and fell onto the deck. Greenie and Lightning were not a match for these mutant green gulls. If they were to appear, they would be easily ripped to shreds. Only Turtle, with its astonishing defense, was able to resist such aerial mutant beasts. The intense battle continued for another 3 hours, and after Yu Zhong had obliterated over 10,000 mutant green gulls, he had no choice but to retreat within the battleship for a rest. The expenditure of the third-order gravity manipulation and fourth-order devil flame was huge, and he could not utilize them to fight indefinitely. The fact that he could kill over 10,000 mutant green gulls by himself was sick. Luo Qingqing was extremely valiant herself, but within that 3-hour time span, the number of mutant green gulls that she killed was only about 300 plus. The ones who managed to eliminate the most were instead the subordinates of Yu Zhong within those pillboxes. Inside the 3,000 pillboxes, the firing never stopped, killing large numbers every second. As the flock was dense and closely packed, there was no way that they would miss. Over 60,000 had actually been shot and killed over the time period. This time, the number of mutant green gulls that had attacked the storm battleship was over 160,000. In a short 3 hours, over 80,000 had been killed or heavily injured. Their corpses were strewn all over the storm battleship. The remaining mutant green gulls saw that they had lost half their numbers in these 3 hours, and they did not get to consume much prey. Even with their low intelligence, they knew that things were not looking good. Finally, they let out shrieks of misery as they flapped their wings and disappeared into the clouds. The moment they left, the entire storm battleship erupted in cheers of joy. The 160,000 mutant green gulls had given them all huge pressure. Now that they were beaten back, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. If they were careless, the entire ship might have been consumed by those mutant green gulls. Dorothy looked at the numerous corpses, her mind in a daze as she muttered, "We won." The mutant green gulls were Type 2 mutant beasts and were terrifying. If it were a one-on-one clash in the skies, the Type 2 winged warriors would definitely not be a match. Even Type 3 experts might fall. In the wild, such a huge flock would easily decimate the entire winged race. Yet they had managed to fend off such numbers at the same time, killing over half of them. After the mutant green gulls retreated, Yu Zhong also relaxed and walked out of the command center. Earlier, his display of destroying over 10,000 of the beasts with a seemingly invincible posture was seen by all. However, the truth was that he had consumed a lot of his stamina and spirit, thus he had to retreat. This time, the pillboxes that he had designated had contributed greatly to the victory, as it was precisely these structures that helped defend against their attacks, at the same time allowing the soldiers within to slaughter the mutant green gulls without fear. Quick, go gather the corpses. Those are decent resources for food, as well as manufacturing equipment. Since there were no threats in the skies, Sun Lon Lon quickly ordered, and the humans came out in droves, gathering the corpses from the deck of the battleship. They were then transported to the storage facility of Yu Zhong's faction. The winged race and storm warriors were taken aback, and they hesitated slightly. They had killed a number of the mutant beasts as well, but it could not compare to the efforts of Yu Zhong's troops. In the end, they were not shameless enough to snatch the corpses away. As the corpses were being transported, Sun Lanlan's face was beaming brightly. As the official with the highest authority, she naturally felt happy about such a harvest. The concern about food was reduced largely. At the same time, due to the mutant green gulls being Type 2 mutant beasts, every one of them had a Type 2 nuclei. Just like this, Yu Zhong had gained tens of thousands of Type 2 nuclei, which translated to their electromagnetic weapons having replenished their energy supply. On the Storm battleship, there were still a large number of injured mutant green gulls. Yu Zhong's heart shook slightly when he saw them, and he quickly ordered, "Don't kill those injured mutant green gulls. Try your best to bring them to me alive as much as possible." Han Zixian replied respectfully, "Yes, Sir Yu Zhong." Han Xiong and Lai Wei also acknowledged and moved out. These three great beauties were the strongest generals that Yu Zhong currently had. With their speed and their elite subordinates, they could bring the injured mutant green gulls to Yu Zhong. Yu Zhong walked up to one of them, causing the beast to look at him and shriek in a bid to deter him. At the same time, it struggled wildly, trying to get away. Yu Zhong shot forward and punched out at its head viciously, causing it to be knocked unconscious immediately. He then grabbed out with his palm and sent a Type 2 puppet rune into its forehead. After that, he spoke indifferently. "All right, let it go." "Yes, sir." The four soldiers had expressions of shock, not knowing why Yu Zhong would give such an order. However, they had been trained to obey, carved deep into their bodies, and they quickly let go of the beast. Yu Zhong then flicked the forehead of the mutant green gull, causing it to wake up. It was already controlled by the puppet rune, and it lowered its head obediently, giving out a docile coo. Amazing. He truly is leader after all. The four soldiers had amazed looks when they saw how easily Yu Zhong had subdued the mutant beast. He then pointed to one of them. "Go take it away and care for it properly. It might be your mount in the future." "Yes." The soldier was extremely overjoyed, and under the envious gaze of his friends, he led the mutant green gull away. Every soldier had seen the combat prowess of the mutant green gulls for themselves. Gaining such mounts would increase their combat ability by a lot. In this world where strength spoke volumes, it would mean that they would gain more respect and standing together with a better life. More mutant green gulls were brought over to him, and Yu Zhong brought them under his control with the puppet runes. After condensing a number of puppet runes, Yu Zhong summoned Boleus and handed the role of imprinting the mutant green gulls to him. As long as the puppet box belonged to Yu Zhong, he could delegate the increasing of puppets through his own puppets. Very soon, over 1,000 mutant green gulls were standing obediently to one side of Boleus. The winged race and storm warriors looked at this scene with incomparable shock, their eyes filled with disbelief. Shailene watched how the mutant green gulls were being subdued right in front of her eyes. He can actually tame such a number of mutant green gulls. How in the world? How'd he do it? This is a miracle. The mutant green gulls were ferocious and were agility-type mutant beasts. The winged race had tried to tame them before. However, there had been no success. Yu Zhong could actually tame them, which caused them all to be shocked. Dorothy eyed Yu Zhong, and her heart could not help but be stirred. How many trump cards does he have? This is truly a man with plenty of miracles. Luo Qing came up to Yu Zhong, and her eyes flashed. "Yu Zhong, can you sell 100 of those tame mutant green gulls to our Storm Valley?" Chapter 857, Cloud Region. Chapter 857, Cloud Region. Yu Zhong chuckled lightly. "What do you intend to buy them with?" Luo Qing smiled faintly and suggested, "Storm Valley can help you manufacture 300 equipment with Type 5 mutant beast hide, 1,000 Type 4 mutant beast hide, 1,000 bone blades, 1,000 bone bows, and 10,000 bone arrows." Storm Valley used melee weapons often, thus, they had a number of skilled craftsmen. With their talented work and output, they were able to churn out such numbers quickly. Yu Zhong thought for a while, before swiftly agreeing, deal. The firearms of the prehistoric times might be more powerful than the cold weapons, but they had a limit on usage. Once fired to a certain extent, their parts would fail and could not be used again. And currently, they had no one who was capable of repairing any of these weapons. It was because of this that even though the Storm Valley and Sun Alliance had many of such weapons, they did not dare to use them casually. If it weren't for Yu Zhong's new recruits being so weak, and the perils of the long journey being glaringly present, he would not allow them to use such weapons to defend themselves. In this world, they were valuable. After subjugating all the injured mutant green gulls with his puppet runes, Yu Zhong had instantly gained an army of 5,000 mutant green gulls. The number was mighty. If they all flew up together, it would be enough to block out an entire patch of sky. Each one of them carried significant injuries. However, with Yu Zhong providing a number of Type 2 nuclei and the meat of Type 4 mutant beasts, they quickly recovered. The recovery rate of mutant beasts was truly terrifying. These 5,000 mutant green gulls were just Type 2 mutant beasts, and in terms of physique, they were the weakest of Type 2 mutant beasts. Even so, their recovery was faster than humans. After waiting for the 5,000 mutant green gulls to recover, Yu Zhong then handed the control over to Lai Wei. As she was a Type 4 divine warrior of the winged race and flew constantly, she was extremely clear on giving commands. As for the rest, they were still inexperienced. As they took care of the huge flock of mutant green gulls, the huge storm battleship continued on its way towards Cloud Region. Another week passed before a number of tall peaks that seemed to break through the clouds appeared on the horizon, forming a number of natural valleys. Within the valleys was the last stand of the human race in this world. Only a narrow gorge of about 20 m wide led to the interior of the valley. Yu Zhong did not know how the humans within the Cloud Region would take to his arrival. Thus, he chose to descend over a dense patch of forest that was about 100 li away. As the storm battleship descended, the hundreds and thousands of mutant beasts within the forest looked up and were shocked. They frantically fled in different directions, forming a stampede as they sped away. The enormous battleship was over millions of tons. Thus, when it landed, it caused a large patch to be flattened together with the mutant beasts and flora underneath it. With just this landing, the storm battleship had caused the deaths of over 1,000 mutant beasts. Yu Zhong had seen the numerous mutant beasts being squashed, and he sighed, "What might? If it wasn't for the consumption, if only I can utilize this to bulldoze everything. What fun it would be." The storm battleship weighed over 1,000,000 tons. Even Turtle would be flattened under that sort of weight, not to mention other mutant beasts. In fact, among the crushed mutant beasts, there had been 2 Type 4 ones. However, before the kickstart of the battleship, he would have to forego those nuclei for now. After the battleship came to a complete rest, Yu Zhong gave an order to Lai Wei. "Go. Please ensure your safety above all else." At the same time, by hunting the mutant beasts around, it made the environment safer. Luo Qingqing and Shailene, the queens of their respective factions, also led their own subordinates to go and hunt. Although there were trees planted on board the ship, they were insufficient to fill everybody on the ship. They might have brought along resources as well, but if things continued like this, they could not support themselves. After delegating all the work, Yu Zhong then brought Han Zixian along with him towards Cloud Region. Han Zixian's own strength had also gone through a metamorphosis since she had been through intense battles, reaching the Type 4 realm. She was beautiful and strong and loyal to a fault. Yu Zhong naturally liked to bring her along as a personal guard. As for the rest, Lu Mei'er was not dependable. Sun Lanlan's strength laid in governance, while Han Xiong still required more training. Lai Wei led the mutant green gulls to hunt for nuclei. Hence, only Han Zixian was free. Arriving at Cloud Region's entrance, Yu Zhong checked out the huge fortress at the entrance of the cliff, his heart filled with shock. This is the legendary Shuel Luo 20 forts? Pretty intimidating. No wonder they're able to fend off the Dino people for so many years. Within that narrow gorge leading into Cloud Region, there were 20 forts erected. These were the last and strongest form of defense of the humans here. In these hundreds of years, they had fended off countless attacks by the dinosaur kingdoms, killing numerous Dino warriors. This was the last paradise for most human factions as well. If it were not for the treacherous journey leading to here, all of the human factions would have long since made their way here. As for these Shui Luo 20 forts, each one of them was about 200 m high, together with numerous castle walls. There were soldiers stationed everywhere, keep an eye on everything. All along the wall, there were many openings for cannons, electromagnetic guns, and cannons to fire out from. Just along the first fort, Yu Zhong could already see 20 large electromagnetic cannons. Each one of them was at least 3 times larger than the electromagnetic gun he had. If hit by a single blast from these weapons, a mid-grade Dino-General would definitely be slaughtered instantly. Beyond those, every single soldier stationed along the wall was filled with an intimidating killing intent, their backs carrying electromagnetic guns and ray guns. Yu Zhong saw that the entire place was armed to the teeth and did not know what trump cards the place had hidden. He felt his heart turn slightly cold. Even for someone as strong as him, if he was not careful, he might be turned into paste here. Yu Zhong and Han Zixin had just gotten close when 4 human soldiers in black uniform barked out, "Who are you people?" Yu Zhong replied without skipping a beat, "We're humans from afar, seeking refuge. We heard that Cloud Region is the last sanctuary for us humans, thus we came from Green Region. The Green Region has already been conquered by the Stegosaurus Kingdom. We don't want to become their slaves. We hope to enter Cloud Region. These warriors are strong." As the conversation was going on, Yu Zhong observed them carefully, his eyes flashing with a hint of shock. While they were just rank-and-file soldiers, their aura and demeanor was top-notch, comparable to the elite of his elites. At the same time, from their movements, he surmised that they were at least Type 2 divine warriors. The 4 of them assessed Yu Zhong and Han Zixin carefully also, before saying, "Go over there to register." The 2 of them came to the gate and handed their belongings to be checked before they made some detailed identification. Once their prints were collected, they started for the inner city under the escort of the 4 soldiers. After 6 hours and multiple layers of check, as well as 20 large army camps, the 2 of them finally made it into Cloud Region. Yu Zhong took a look and was taken aback. This is Cloud Region. After the 20th Army Camp, it was a vast plain of green, where one could not see the ends, and a huge city appeared in front of them. One of the soldiers handed 2 name cards to them and turned to leave, but before that, he said, "We have a total of 24 main cities in Cloud Region. This is one of them, Red Blood City. From today on, you're members of our Red Blood City as well. Let me give you a word of advice. We don't keep trash around here. If you want to survive, you have to showcase your worth. Your area of residence is in D District. After you enter the city, turn right. All the best." Chapter 858, Gloom. Chapter 858, Gloom. Yu Zhong took a glance at the name card in his hand. It was a thin, gold alloy card with his prints, name, and original location on it. Cloud Region was considered the last human defense against the invasion of the Dino race. The only thing they were relying on was their prehistoric tech. The technology and weapons were not as backward compared to other places. "Let's go." Yu Zhong kept the card and started to walk further into the city with big strides. Han Zixin followed after him quietly, just like a shadow. Outside the blood-red city, there were 20 warriors that had a slight scent of blood on them, guns slung over their powerful and broad bodies. They looked over the cards of Yu Zhong and Han Zixin before letting them in. Within the city, the layout was quite modern, with large steel and cement structures. The ground was covered with flat, cement paths, and a number of small cars were driving around. Seeing this, it felt like he was back on Earth. Han Zixin was filled with curiosity and excitement as she looked around. "So this is Cloud Region?" It truly deserves its name as the last stand for humans. Yu Zhong was speechless when he saw how she was. After all, he had come from Earth, and such sights were normal back there. There was nothing to be surprised about. However, to Han Zixin, who had grown up in Green Region and had never even seen a car before, it was truly an amazing sight. Let's go. Along the streets, there were signs set up to indicate the sector and district they were in. Yu Zhong moved towards District D. As they walked further in, the state of the district became worse. By the time they arrived at District D, the environment was foul and putrid. Things were falling apart everywhere, with some structures looking dangerously close to collapsing. The ground was covered in puddles of dirty water, and electrical lines laid everywhere. There were humans with tattered clothes walking around aimlessly, their bodies giving off a strong stench. "Master, come and have one round. Only 10 credit points, I'm all yours." "Sir, my skills are good. Only 18 points, and I'll be your toy for the whole night." A number of women who did not have any makeup, only clean from showers, stood by the roadside, trying to solicit business. From time to time, some men would not be able to resist them and follow them into the rooms. Yu Zhong took a good look around, with his abundant experience, and could tell that this was a slum. At the same time, he could tell roughly what Cloud Region was going through. This is a slum. Seems like Cloud Region isn't that perfect after all. There are caste systems. One particular girl of about 12 with messy hair and a skinny body walked out from a simple shop with a black bag. 3 men suddenly charged over, one of them covering her mouth, the other 2 grabbing her towards a dark alley. The eyes of the girl widened in fear and shock, and she began to struggle frantically while looking around with a pleading look. The spectators only watched coldly, some even turning as though nothing had happened. Han Zixin could not watch on any longer, and she darted forward, appearing in the alley within a breath's time, only to witness a scene that caused her anger to boil. Of the 3, one was gobbling up the black bread in the bag, another was tearing off her clothes with a lewd smile, while the last was taking off his pants. Han Zixin's countenance turned incredibly ugly as she barked out loud, "Stop! Damn animals!" One of them turned to drawl without any fear, "Stupid bitch! What are you? You dare to meddle in the affairs of our 5 ghost gang? Are you tired of living?" One looked at Han Zixin, and his eyes immediately lit up in a lustful manner, revealing a wretched smile. Hee, this chick is pretty. This senior wants to screw her first." The last man had a similar expression as he mockingly chided his friend. "Damn. Yellow hair, you want to be the first to screw every chick we get our hands on. Aren't you being too damn overboard?" The leader among them barked out, "Enough with the bullshit. Grab her before saying anything else. Otherwise, more problems might arise." "Fine." The other 2 men let go of the little girl and pounced toward Han Zixin with excited gazes, like hungry wolves eyeing their prey. "Seeking death. A bunch of trash." Han Zixin heard their words, and her face turned a deeper shade of black. She exploded out, and her powerful legs slammed into the bodies of those 2 incoming men. The 2 of them immediately soared and slammed into the walls on either side, spitting large amounts of blood. They curled up on the floor in agony, moaning as they rolled about. Expert, the leader's pupils narrowed, and immediately pulled out a sharp blade to press it against the neck of the little girl, barking, "Bitch, stay away. Otherwise, this senior is going to kill her. I'm afraid you've already missed the chance. Scum." Han Zixin's eyes flashed with a cold light, and with a tap of her foot, she disappeared from her location. When the hoodlum saw Han Zixin disappear, his eyes flashed with shock, and in a moment of viciousness, he brought down the dagger across the neck of the little girl. However, he had just had the thought and moved slightly when a fair hand grabbed onto his right hand, twisting it forcefully and breaking it. Han Zixin then sent a kick towards the stomach of the hoodlum, sending him slamming into a wall, curling up into a ball. Han Zixin glanced at the 3 hoodlums with disdain, speaking coldly, "Bunch of trash." The leader, whose hand was broken by Han Zixian, had a fierce glint in her eyes as he looked towards the little girl. Damn bitch. What right do you have to hit us? This little bitch came here with us of her own accord. She wants us to screw her. You damn bitch. Don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong. Wang Ning, tell her, you're a little bitch, one that is willing. Our 5 Ghost Gang had given you and your sister Wang, Li Hua, 40 credit points. When he was mentioning the sister, he emphasized those words, his eyes staring fixedly at the girl. When the little girl heard the name of her sister, her body shuddered, and her eyes were filled with fear. She got down on her knees in despair as she sobbed. Big sister, I'm a bitch. I'm willing to be the toy of these people. I had already accepted their payment. Please leave. Just leave. You. How can you be like that? Han Zixian looked at Wang Ning and was filled with rage and indignance. She then turned to the smug-looking leader of the trio, and her eyes narrowed into slits. Is he threatening you? I'll teach him a lesson for you, so that he won't bother you anymore. Wang Ning's face turned pale in fright as she grabbed Han Zixian's legs. No, no, please don't hurt him. Please just go. Big sister, please. If Han Zixian harmed the hoodlum, then the 5 Ghost Gang would not let Wang Ning nor her sister off. Thinking about their horrendous methods, Wang Ning could not help but feel a chill. The gangster roared with laughter. Ha, ha, meddling bitch. Ha, ha. Did you hear that someone is asking you to scram? You're still so thick-skinned to stay here. You want to watch us screw her? Han Zixian's countenance turned cold once more. However, she did not know what to do. The person she was trying to help was pushing her away, leaving her at a loss. Zixian, your method won't work. Against these trash, you must do it like this. Yu Zhong chuckled as he stepped into the alley, his flame blade in his hands, cleaving the head of one of the gangsters casually. The head of that gangster rolled with a thump, a warm gush of blood spraying from the neck wound, dyeing the wall of the alley red. Wang Ning saw this and screamed in despair. No, I'm from the 5 Ghosts. As the hooligan called Yellow Hair stammered out in fear, the blade flashed cleanly past his neck, causing it to roll off as well, his eyes still filled with shock and despair. By this time, the arrogant hooligan who had been sarcastic toward Han Zixian kneeled on the floor towards Yu Zhong, pleading profusely, "Don't kill me. Please don't kill me. This brother, sir, boss. Don't kill me. I'm trash, scum, rubbish. I'm willing to slog for you. I promise. I promise never to disturb Wang Ning and her sister ever again. I promise. I promise. If you kill me, the 5 Ghost Gang would not let these sisters off." Yu Zhong had slaughtered countless human trash, and he did not even view them as fellow humans anymore. Thus, there was no burden or hesitation when it came to killing them. What has that got to do with me? I just dislike the sight of you. Scum, die. With a wave of his hands, Yu Zhong's blade flashed again. The head of the hoodlum dropped to the ground, fresh blood spraying everywhere. Wang Ning watched this and screamed out in despair, "No!" Chapter 859, 5 Ghost Gang. Chapter 859, 5 Ghost Gang. Wang Ning stared at the 3 corpses lying in a pool of blood, muttering, "I'm finished. I'm finished." The methods of the 5 Ghost Gang was truly vicious and despicable. If the matter blew up, knowing that 3 of their subordinates had fallen here, the gang would not let Wang Ning's family off. Thinking to this point, Wang Ning was filled with despair and fear. Both her and her sister dared not envision their fates at the hands of those monsters. Yu Zhong shot Wang Ning a look and spoke indifferently. "Rascal, they're dead now. You must be vexed, right? Where is the headquarters of the 5 Ghost Gang? Take me there." Wang Ning's face was as pale as a sheet, looking at Yu Zhong with an expression as though she was about to cry. "This, sir, I don't know where they're at." Yu Zhong frowned, and he began to consider if he should use some other means to obtain that information. Right at this time, there was a heart-wrenching shout, her tone full of urgency and anxiety. "Little Ning! Little Ning! Where are you? Little Ning, quick, come out. Wang Ning heard the voice and shouted back, Sister, I'm here. The next moment, a woman with tattered clothes but a clean appearance, her nose covered with a few pockmarks, came running over. Her demeanor was demure, and yet she ran forward to hug Wang Ning without a care for her image or cleanliness, eyeing Yu Zhong and Han Zixian with fear. Her body trembled uncontrollably, but she continued to hold Wang Ning tightly. Wang Lihua shot them a fearful look, handing her name cards over while pleading, Who are you people? I only have 30 credit points here. Please take them all. Don't kill my sister. Wang Ning grabbed Wang Lihua's arm and spoke, Sis, they saved me. They saved me from the hands of the 5 Ghost Gang. Hearing Wang Ning's words, Wang Lihua heaved a sigh of relief. However, she caught sight of the 3 headless corpses and still remained fearful. These people in front were not exactly saints. Yu Zhong held the card and asked out of curiosity, Credit points? Is that the currency here? How does it work? Like this. Wang Lihua saw that Yu Zhong was truly in the dark. Thus she walked up bravely, holding up both her card and his. Some numbers appeared. On Yu Zhong's card, there was a clear 0. He did not have a single credit point. As for Wang Lihua, there was a 30 on it. So it's like that. Interesting. Zixian. Yu Zhong chuckled and looked at Han Zixian. She swiftly went over and rummaged the 3 corpses for their cards, handing them to Yu Zhong. He then used his own card to absorb the points of 2 of the cards, and the number on his card now reflected 230. He handed the last card to Wang Lihua. This is for you. We want to stay over for one night. I have things to ask you. Wang Lihua grabbed the card tightly and bowed profusely. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. There were at the least tens of points inside the card, which would feed the 2 sisters for another 2 weeks. With her lead, they left the dark alley. The moment they left, 7 or 8 men that had been lying on the street charged into the alley, fighting over the corpses of the 3 5 Ghost Gang members. Han Zixian eyed their strange actions and asked curiously, What are they doing? Wang Lihua replied apathetically, They're going to eat the corpses. Han Zixian was taken aback. What? Eat the corpses? They're human, aren't they? Isn't this cannibalism? This is Cloud Region. After all, the last stand of the humans. How could there be such things? Since Han Zixian grew up in the Storm Valley, and there might have been classes there over as well, there had never been cases of cannibalism before. She simply could not imagine how such a place would condone such events. Wang Lihua laughed bitterly. This sister, you guys must be from the outside world? Cloud Region is truly the last place for humans. There's plenty of technology here that outside do not have. The upper echelon lead the lives of the rich and luxurious, whereas we weak civilians cannot eat our fill. Every day, there would be people sick and dying in the slums. In the eyes of the rich, we're just bugs. They don't care about us at all. The words of Wang Lihua were filled with bitterness. Inside Blood Red City, there are 4 districts, A, B, C, and D. They're split according to higher upper class, ordinary citizens, and poor citizens. The poor folk can only move around in District C and D. Most of the jobs in District A, B, and C do not require us. Thus, our earnings are meager, and many cannot even fill their stomachs. There would be deaths every day, so, in order to survive, some people would eat even corpses. Han Zixian became silent upon hearing that. She had looked forward to Cloud Region. However, based on the situation as per Wang Lihua's words, where the poor led lives worse than dogs and pigs, she became disheartened and disappointed. Yu Zhong looked at all those and inwardly celebrated his decision not to have directly brought the Storm battleship into the Cloud Region. From the lives and situation of these people, Yu Zhong could tell that those in authority were not decent. While the upper echelon got drunk on their luxury, the common people suffered. There were obvious signs that there was rot within the government in the Cloud Region. Yu Zhong asked, What's the background of the 5 Ghost Gang? When the topic came to this, Wang Lihua's eyes flashed with fear. They're a tyrannical gang. They have 5 leaders, known as Zhang Yurun, Zhang Xiang, Zhang Wu, Zhang Lu, Zhang Jian. Each of them possesses terrifying strength. None of us from the slums are their opponents. At the same time, they have hundreds of subordinates, lording over the people of the slums. Anyone they act against would not have a pretty fate, and it's rumored that they have the backing from the upper echelons. That's why no one dares touch them. Yu Zhong continued. The upper echelons? How can one advance in tiers? Wang Lihua replied. One must kill over 10 Dino warriors to gain the lowest level Lord title. Killing 100 Dino warriors would earn the Baron title. A Lord is an ordinary upper class, while a Baron is a higher upper class. As they spoke, the party soon arrived at the house of the 2 sisters. It was a simple and run-down place, with only a few simple furnitures. However, the place was kept tidy and clean, looking extremely cozy. Wang Lihua then went into the kitchen to prepare dinner. Soon, the table was filled with 4 bowls of water and soup made of black bread, with only a little salt in the soup. The moment she placed them down, Wang Ning grabbed her bowl in hunger, drinking it in one go, before staring at the other bowls with a bright look. Wang Lihua bowed slightly, expressing for Yu Zhong and Han Zixian to dig in. Help yourselves. Yu Zhong took a look and had no appetite, pushing the bowl directly in front of Wang Ning, watching her slurp it up with relish. Han Zixian also felt a sour ache as she watched Wang Ning. Thus, she passed the bowl over to Wang Ning as well, watching her finish her 3rd bowl in happiness. Within a certain area in the D district, a lavish mansion stood over a large plot of land. 20 burly hooligans were gathered together, betting money and playing cards. This was the headquarters of the 5 Ghost Gang. Inside a large hall, a dozen naked men were currently having an orgy with dozens other beautiful women. The moans and sounds of lust and desire filled the place. A short and nervous man charged in as he hollered, "Boss! Boss! Not good. Something happened to Yellow Hair and the rest." A middle-aged man, Zhang Yurun, looked up with a frown. He had a hooked nose, his body skinny. He continued to thrust while scolding, "Gray dog, what the hell are you shouting for? Damn it, you wrecked the mood. What happened?" Gray dog replied loudly, "They have been killed." The moment he heard that, Zhang Yurin kicked the woman in his arms away, standing up with an ashen face, roaring in fury. "What? They were killed? Which assholes are tired of living already? To kill my men?" Gray Dog gritted his teeth. "It's those 2 newcomers. They have no background and acted to save the Wang sisters. They hacked Yellow Hair to death, and their methods are vicious." The face of Zhang Yurin contorted. "Very good. Very good. They dare kill my people, truly wishing for death." The 5 Ghost Gang had ruled the slums for a dozen years already. A few upright people had tried standing up for justice, but had all been turned to corpses. Their 5 Ghost Gang replied precisely on fear to control and run the slums. If they did not react to this killing of their own men, soon their prestige would plunge and would collapse easily. Zhang Yuren's face then turned savage as he roared, "Second, third, fourth, and old 5th. Stop fucking around. Damn bastard. They actually want to go against our 5 Ghost Gang." The 4 others quickly got to their feet. Under their lead, they gathered more subordinates and charged towards Wang Lihua's home. Chapter 860, Wiping Out the 5 Ghost Gang. Chapter 860, Wiping Out the 5 Ghost Gang. Over 100 of the 5 Ghost Gang members wielded axes, hacking knives and other weapons as they charged towards the Wangs. Along the way, any citizen that saw them quickly got out of the way. They did not dare antagonize the 5 Ghost Gang. Soon after, the gang members gathered below the building. The moment they reached, Zhang Yurin turned to one of his men and asked, "Are they inside?" The man replied, "Boss, they're still inside and haven't come out once." Zhang Yuren's eyes flashed with a cold light as he laughed savagely. Set fire and burn them down. A dozen other hooligans lit up the Molotov cocktails in their hands and flung them towards the dilapidated building, and flames burst to life, enveloping the old structure. The houses on either side were made out of wood as well. As the flames got larger, they started to spread, thus both buildings started to burn as well. 6 or 7 people ran out from those wooden houses, wailing in fright and despair as they watched their houses burn. The hundreds of members from the Five Ghosts gang watched and roared with laughter as they gloated at the innocents. They slashed out and began to slaughter those fleeing people in an unbridled fashion, slicing them up. Seeing the numerous innocent people fall in their own pools of blood, the members began to get excited from the bloodlust. Zhang Yuren eyed the blaze and laughed out loud. Ha! Do you see this? If you dare go against our Five Ghost gang, this is your fate. Ha ha ha! Beside him, the rest of the hooligans also started to laugh, their expressions savage and cruel. Amidst their laughter, for shadows darted out, and the flames seemed to stir with life, not daring to get near the 4 of them. Grey Dog exclaimed, "Boss, they're out." Zhang Yuren's eyes flashed with a vicious glint. "Throw the liquid." 8 gang members carried some buckets and poured them towards Yu Zhong and his party. "Don't rush forward, that's acid." Yu Zhong grabbed hold of Han Zixian, preventing her from stepping forward. He then raised his hands to conjure up an energy shield, defending in front of them. The clear liquid splashed onto the shield, and some landed on the ground, causing sizzling sounds as poisonous smoke rose. What vicious people! Han Zixian saw this, and her face fell. If an ordinary person was splashed with that acid, they would be corroded away. Yu Zhong eyed the 100 members and ordered coldly, "Good timing. Leave 5 alive. Kill the rest." "Yes." Han Zixian's eyes flashed with a killing intent. With a tap of her foot, she charged forth like a merciless jaguar. As a Type 4 divine warrior, the moment she unleashed all of her might, there was only a blur to be seen, and holes appeared in the chests of the Five Ghost gang. Their faces were written with fear and shock, unsure how they had died. Zhang Yuren saw his subordinates being torn apart, and his body started to tremble with fear. Divine warrior! At least Type 3. Damn it, this woman is at least a Type 3 divine warrior. He quickly screamed with a pale face, "Stop! Stop! Don't kill anymore. Our Five Ghost gang are Viscount Luo Jia, his people. If you were to kill us, they will not let you off." Zhang Xiang, Zhang Wu, Zhang Lu, and Zhang Jian quickly got to Zhang Yuren's side, their bodies quaking badly. In front of Han Zixian, they were like ants, not able to withstand a single strike. Hearing his words, the Wang sisters lost color in their faces. Viscount! A Viscount had prestige within the blood-red city. If they were to be offended, then it was a disaster to the ordinary folks. Even if Yu Zhong and his team were to wipe out this bunch of scum, there were still the city guards. Furthermore, this place was near the 20th fort, with experts aplenty within. As long as they made a move, Yu Zhong and his party were sure to be doomed. Thinking up to here, the Wang sisters felt despair. Yu Zhong frowned. "Viscount? Interesting. Too bad. You shouldn't have threatened me. Since you're the Zhong, other than you, everyone else can die. Zixian, keep him alive, kill the rest." By this time, barely 7 seconds had passed, and almost all the subordinates had their hearts torn out and crushed, yet there was not a single drop of blood on her. Hearing Yu Zhong's order, Han Zixian's body flashed over and disappeared from her location. The next moment, the brothers of Zhang Yuren had their hearts split open as blood sprayed from their wounds. Seeing his brothers die, Zhang Yuren screamed out with misery, "No! Xiang, Jian, Wu, Lu, since you've seen your brothers perish, you can rest in peace." Yu Zhong disappeared and reappeared behind Zhang Yuren's back, sending a puppet rune into his brain. Zhang Yuren's eyes glazed over before he passed out, the puppet rune entering his head. Yu Zhong slapped his face once, and he was shaken away from his stupor by the pain. Yu Zhong ordered, "Bring us to your base." Zhang Yuren replied with a blank look, "Yes, master." Under his lead, Yu Zhong and his party walked towards the headquarters of the Five Ghost Gang, leaving behind 100 corpses in the blazing flames. Along the way, the residents of the slums eyed Yu Zhong's party with fear. Wang Ning looked at Han Zixian, her gaze filled with hope and excitement. She wanted to become as strong as this woman in front of her. One of the gang members within the headquarters saw Zhang Yuren and asked curiously, "Boss, you're back. What about second boss and the rest?" Yu Zhong gave Han Zixian an order, "Leave none alive." Han Zixian received Yu Zhong's order and immediately charged into the headquarters, unleashing carnage within. In a matter of minutes, the entire Five Ghost Gang had been annihilated. Inside the basement of the building, Yu Zhong discovered dozens of beautiful women of various ages, locked in cages. The oldest was 30+, while the youngest was only 12. These women saw the sudden appearance of Yu Zhong, and their eyes were filled with fear. He released them, before letting them leave. When they heard Yu Zhong had slaughtered the other 4 leaders, their faces were filled with fright and quickly fled, leaving only 30 other females behind who had no homes to go to. Yu Zhong sat down on a couch, shooting a question towards the puppet Zhang Yuren. "What's the relationship between the Luo Jia and yourself?" Zhang Yuren replied, "Master, the Luo Jia, he was the master of us 5 brothers. We were in charge of collecting beautiful young women to be sent for his enjoyment and pleasure." When the dozens of beauties heard his words, their eyes were filled with hatred. They had all been captured. Many of them lost their families, and now they finally understood it was all to satiate some private, rich bastard. Yu Zhong continued, "How do you communicate with him?" Zhang Yuren replied, "Every first day of the month, he will send someone over to collect the girls. There's another collection date coming up in 4 days. Each year, we're also given one chance to automatically contact him. We had already used that chance earlier this year. Now, even if we reach out to him, he will ignore us." Yu Zhong's eyes flashed with a glint before continuing to question Zhang Yuren about other Blood Red City matters. Although Zhang Yuren was from the slums, he was able to become the trusted aide of a Viscount. He might not be extremely familiar with every single part of Blood Red City, but he knew enough. There were over 400,000 people in Blood Red City, the city lord being Marquis Wang Yufeng. There were 10,000 city guards, each of them extremely valiant and powerful. They had no lack of Type 4 experts. In the city, there were 6 main clans. Viscount Luo Jia, he was the clan head of Luo clan, one of the 6 main clans. Their Luo clan had considerable authority and power within the city, and other than the 5 clans, they held practically no one else in regard. As for the slums, other than the Five Ghost Gang, there were also over 100 other gangs of varying sizes. Some were made up of the lowest bastards, while others were mainly residents. Some even had the backing of other upper-class citizens. There were even factions that the Five Ghost Gang did not dare provoke. At the same time, Yu Zhong even gained information that there was a central computer within the main manor of Blood Red City. With it, one could gain control over the entire city. Having gained information, Yu Zhong began to make his preparations. In the dark of the night, as the darkness blanketed the planet, District A, B, and C were still lit with lights. Yu Zhong made use of the dark to stealth past the connection of Districts C and D, moving towards District B. Soon, the boundary of District B and C appeared before his eyes. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.